Hi there.
Hi, Heather.
I think I did the recording, which I didn't want to. My apologies. I have this note taker that just automatically goes off without any sort of, or are you recording it?
I think mine's recording.
Okay, good.
We're good.
Too.
Yep.
I don't want to force it.
How are you? It's nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
I've
I'm,
seen your name on many things.
oh, really? Yeah, it's funny. It's been a while since I think it's been since like October of last year. Forgive me. I just got out of a meeting, and so now I'm like eating dinner before I start.
You're fine. You're fine. Please eat.
Um, I got the list of folks. So I gotta remember. Did they do a lean canvas already? So are we gonna have a discussion about that as we begin, or are we out of order?
I'm not sure, but I'm gonna pull up the schedule. So today's the 28th. It looks like they did Lean Canvas in the first session. So that was
Because I usually will say, let's talk about what you learned in the lean canvas and how'd you do? Do you have any questions? So
okay.
keep that in there. Sometimes we hide it if Carrie's had to go out of order of the sessions, but it sounds like we're good. Um,
Um, so when you say leave that in there, I don't really have like a deck or anything.
no, I have a deck.
Okay, good.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so it looks like this is my first time joining actually this year, so
Okay.
sorry if it's a little rocky. We'll be
Mhm.
fine. We'll be fine.
Yeah.
Um, Carrie wants me to have each participant do a quick description of their company, and then I'll introduce you.
Actually, you don't need to do that. I think
Okay.
she forgot because I have them do an elevator pitch. So I have them as part of the session, they're going to be doing their own elevator pitch. So you don't need to do that.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
So we'll just jump in and have you introduce yourself when everyone gets here.
Sounds good. Well,
And I'll,
stop eating when they. Mhm.
are you good if I start letting them in?
Of course, yeah.
Okay. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Hi.
Happy Monday.
Yes.
I'm stepping in for Carrie tonight. I'll introduce myself when a few more people start trickling in.
Great.
Forgive me because I'm eating before we jump in. I'll stop eating. I won't be speaking with my mouth full.
That's
It's all
okay. It
good.
is during, standard dinner time, so it's
Mhm.
okay. Wonder how many people we have this go around. Let's see.
It's usually around 10, I think,
Yeah.
or maybe more.
Hello.
Eric looks like he coming from a space a ship.
I've got 16 on our list, so
Okay.
I don't know how many showed up last time or
Yeah, I was just thinking of the first meeting. I think there were fewer people. Does that make sense?
We're a pretty big group. More people will come.
yeah. So maybe we'll just give it a minute or two.
Yep. Now we're all coming in. My connection was a little wonky earlier, so if I'm breaking up, just let me know. I'm just gonna wait maybe a minute or two to let more people come in.
I was going to make a joke when you said breaking up. I was going to say, oh, please don't break up with us. We like you.
Oh, thanks. No, I've got to run the meeting. Well, alongside Heather. I'm running the meeting today, so I'm here. I'm here for the long haul.
Hey everyone. Hi Jill.
Hi. So let's see.
Huh?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right.
What are you guys doing?
Oh, we're in a program. This is Amdal. He's in
Hello.
our program. He's trying to join on Zoom, but I'm helping him.
Oh, you're in the same room? Are you on the same team?
No.
Oh,
Oh, what are the chances?
yeah, what
That's
is
cool.
I'm not.
I
I'm
literally
not
just
there.
ran into him. I was walking down the hallway, and then I was like, "What? Are you in Tide too?" And then, yeah, that's
seriously?
uh-huh.
So I see them in the office too, but I'm not there today. So I'm feeling bad. I want to be in there though at the office with you guys.
In person is way more fun.
What
but-
office are you in?
We're in Ned's
the
space.
space.
Oh, how cool.
How
And
come
and these guys are awesome. I like that they both turned into the camera as I said they're awesome.
I know. It's more fun to take this class with other people sometimes
Yeah.
in the same room.
we can
All
have
right. We have a fair amount of people, almost everyone, I think. So I'm going to get started. We're recording. Hi, everyone. I'm Jill Jeske. I'm standing in for Carrie tonight, and I will be. You'll see me more often. I think she and I are switching every other session from now on. But I've been working for Ty as a marketing contractor for a couple of years, but starting last July, I started working under Ben Nair, who you met, I think, in the last session. So I'm representing our Angel chapter alongside him, and I also help Carrie with things like this and other marketing initiatives. So that's my intro. And today, our guest, we have Heather Samarin. Am I saying that right, Heather?
You are, thank you.
Perfect. Carrie wanted me to open it up with everyone doing a little intro, but that's part of Heather's plan tonight. So I'm going to have her introduce herself.
Awesome, thanks, Jill. Can you make me co-host so that I can?
Yep.
Yeah. Actually, it looks like I can.
Did it work?
Yep, I got it. All right, everyone, see my screen.
Yes.
Excellent. So, welcome back. Before we jump into what we've got featured tonight, I want to just talk a little bit about the Lean Canvas. How did it go for you? Did you have time to work on it? Did you have any challenges? I want to make sure we have some continuity between last session and this session, because what we're going to work on tonight is an input into your Lean Canvas. So any thoughts on the homework and questions or challenges? Everyone do it?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Okay, great. You know, the Lean Canvas is a really great mechanism to force sort of strategic thinking about your business, right? And it's super helpful to communicate your business strategy to others. So it's a good starting point for if you're putting together a business plan for an SBA loan or for a pitch. And actually, what I want to do is I want to see a raise of hands here, and maybe use your emoticon hand, because I want to see everyone in terms of who here is going to be looking for funding for their business. Okay. Okay. All right, so probably half of you, okay. That's good to know. So much of what we're going to talk about today, I always go back to what needs to be in your pitch. So we're going to talk about how everything, all the topics and the exercises that we're going to work on tonight, how it gets infused into your pitch or not, right? Some of this stuff is really just the work we need to do, kind of the groundwork we need to do in order to build a really great pitch. Because everything at this point is not only about the decisions we make with the very short amount of time. Many of us are probably working full-time and building this business, because we have this entrepreneurial spirit. I'm doing the same thing. I own a business and I do this and I just bought another business. So we have to be prioritizing our time, our resources on the things that are going to be most impactful. And that's what most of the content is around tonight and the next. You have me for 2 days or 2 different sessions. And my goal for you is to help you find ways to effectively prioritize your time and your money on the things that are going to drive the most growth the quickest. All right. So I want you to keep in mind this framework. There's a set of foundations that I really try to help I've done this for years. I've been a founder myself. So, and I'll talk a little bit more about myself here in a second. But I've been a founder myself. And there's some foundations that if we don't establish those early, we have a really hard time focusing. And our inability to focus then doesn't lend itself to an ability to get funding. Because I'm also an angel investor. And when I see a founder not being able to prioritize what's most important in terms of the market they're going after first, what's the problem they're really solving? Are they solving 25 different things? Or are they solving one thing? The focus leads me to have trust in the founder that they're going to spend my money on the things that matter most, that's going to drive growth and my return faster. So there's a set of foundations we're going to talk about today, which I call customer foundations, that if we set those, we then are able to create a very clear vision, strategy, and a set of objectives for our business that then allows us to prioritize our time, where our money goes, who we talk to, you name it. And that prioritization allows us to delight customers in very short order and get a stronghold in the market that we start in so that we can grow fast and expand from there. So that's the concept that I want us to be focused on over the next 2 sessions together. Now, before I go into this, let me just introduce myself. So I own a company called Product Rebels. My business partner and I have run this for about 10 years. But before that, I was in product management, product development. So I was a chief product officer for a startup called Arista MD, where before I left, we got to Series C funding. Before that, I was at Intuit for about 13 years. So I led the QuickBooks business, I led TurboTax, and this is where, I really got a passion and experience for customer-driven decision-making. And that's sort of the premise of what we're going to talk about over the next 2 sessions together. I also am a startup founder. I'm a co-founder, or I was a co-founder for a company called Fitton. It was I don't know if you know the company called ClassPass. We were a competitor for ClassPass. It's where you can download an application, get access to a bunch of studios, pick your class, you pay a monthly fee, and you can go to different studios around your area for a set fee, as opposed to you paying a bunch of drop-in fees. And learned a lot of great things and a lot of things the hard way. But the point is, I've been in your shoes. I've also spent a lot of time with different incubators and different entrepreneur groups and helping founders with these foundations to enable them to get funding fast, but also to grow fast. So that's kind of where I spend most of my time, is really helping businesses figure out a platform to focus. I also wrote a book called Groundwork. I think Carrie, I'm not sure if she gets you guys a copy or not, but I think she might. But what we're going to cover over the next couple sessions is really part of this framework called Groundwork, and it's for any business. I don't care if it's technology. We support insurance companies, fintech, health tech, ed tech, service-based companies. Everything we're going to talk about over the next couple sessions is really applicable to all types of businesses. Any questions before I jump in? All right. So the goals for the next two sessions, really developing a deep appreciation and understanding for your customer. Oftentimes, founders will start a company because they're their own customer. They identify a problem in the marketplace, something that they might have had themselves, and then they go headlong into designing an experience, a service, a product to solve that problem. What I want us to do over the next couple days is decouple ourselves from our customers. We might be one of our customers, but we're not all of them. And so what I want us to do is sort of separate ourselves a little bit and think about some of these practices in a way that puts us into the listening mode, not in the I am the customer and I'm going to design it the way I would want it. We're going to build the foundations for enabling quick and effective decisions. One of the biggest challenges as a founder is you have so many people with so many opinions, right? You might have family and friends that have given you money. You might have advisors or mentors. You might have maybe the incubator that you're in. And so you're getting a ton of advice. Wow, you could do this. And what if you did this? And what if you did this? What we're going to talk about over the next couple sessions is really helping you make decisions with confidence so that you're not mired in a myriad of different directions that sort of holds you paralyzed in terms of, okay, where do I go first, right? Because I could go into 25 different directions. What's the right thing to do? And then we're gonna learn how to conduct some scrappy research so that we continually deepen that understanding of customers in a really small budget, right? None of us have budgets, big budgets, right? We might have some savings that we've accumulated that we're using for this. We're doing it through sort of donations. And so a lot of what we're going to talk about is really inexpensive ways to get the learning you need to build these foundations and make quick decisions. And then thinking about how to learn fast, fail fast, and win faster. That's everything we're going to talk about is really going towards that concept of learning fast, failing fast, and winning faster. So session 1 is all about these customer foundations. Session 2 is really about how to build those foundations and evolve them as you learn. So finding ways to learn quickly through this concept of scrappy research, which is not to be confused with crappy research. It's really about how do I learn the most from a really small sample size that is completely actionable. It's directional. It's not like statistically valid sample sizes, but it's going to enable you to learn quickly from small sample sizes when we have small budgets. All right. So what I want to do is put every one of you on the spot. And in order to get funding, right, we have to be able to pitch our business in a way that allows these funding sources to really understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, and that it's a big enough market for a return to keep me interested. So what I want us to do is each one of us, we're going to do a 90-second pitch. And I'm gonna time you, and don't think me rude, but I'm going to interrupt you after 90 seconds because I want everyone to have the same amount of time. But I want to hear your name, your business, what problem you're solving, and a little bit about the solution and the market. So again, I'm an angel investor. So talk to me as though you wanted to get an angel investor invested in you, but also just interested in asking for more. Does that make sense? All right.
Yes.
And what you're going to do is you're going to have a second chance at this after we go through our 2 sessions, because what you're going to learn is how to evolve your pitch in a way that's going to drive interest from funding sources, whether it be SBA, friends and family, or PE firms slash venture firms. So I'll take volunteers first, and then I'll start picking. So Nick, I see your hand up. Does that mean you want to go first?
Not necessarily. I just I had a question. Are you gonna
Okay.
give like a 15 or a 10-second warning?
I will try. I'm gonna see if there might be a timer in Zoom now that will
Oh
allow
yeah.
us to do that. So hold on. Let me see if I've got that access. I might not. Remote control, no. More. Yeah, no, I don't even have a timer here. Yeah, I'll try to give you 10 seconds. You know what I'll do is I'll do this 10
Oh
for 10
yeah.
seconds. Okay. So
Sounds good. Thanks.
let me set a timer.
Looks like we have other volunteers, hopefully, or maybe questions. So I will go back on mute. Thank you.
Oh, so you're not going first? Eric, you want to go first?
I could go first.
All right. So
Thanks, guys.
I'm gonna say on your market set go. I need to find you on my list because I take notes while you're talking to me. Oh, why do I not have you on this list?
Oh, I joined the cohort late, so it's
You
possible
did.
that
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So I'm gonna add you here. Okay,
maybe
great.
had me on the bottom. Okay.
So hold on. Let's timer start. Shoot, just went back. All right, on your mark, get set, go.
Hello, my name is Eric, and my company name is Hello Robot. I am building AI agents for email marketers. Specifically, I'm helping them nurture leads and book more sales calls. In more depth, the problem that I'm solving is that email marketers set up cold email outreach campaigns. And when they do that, people start replying to these campaigns saying that they're interested in the product or service. When this happens, the marketer has a problem where they need to very rapidly respond to these interested prospects, answer any questions, and nurture them towards a sales call. And my solution for them is a SaaS platform where they can kind of configure their own AI agent and then integrate that with whatever email platform they have so that these responses are handled automatically by an AI agent.
Okay, great. You have 30 seconds left. Okay, and so for email marketers, are you going after really large agencies, independents? Talk to me a little bit about your customer.
I'm going to start out with lead generation agencies, and then I'd like to move up market to B2B SaaS companies where they have go-to-market organizations,
Okay.
and then just keep moving up until we start selling to billion-dollar companies.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So Eric, we're gonna talk about this over the next couple sessions, but the one thing I would say is just be a little clear on where you begin, right? Email marketers is a really large segment, and just understanding one, how big this market is. I don't really even know. So you might start out with, hey, look, there's this many email marketers across all segments. We're going to focus on this problem first, and then we're going to expand. So that would be the first thing that I would give you in terms of just feedback. But good start.
Thank
All
you.
right, who would like to go next? Maddie? I see Maddie's hand up.
I can go next.
Okay, let me
My name is Maddie. My business name is Life Lab.
okay,
And
hold on. I
oh,
need to put the timer.
sorry, I didn't hear you.
All right. So, and you're Madeline
Yeah,
Parmenter?
Madeline Parmenter.
Okay,
Mhm.
great. I just wanted to make sure I had you the right one. Uh, okay, on your mark, get set, and go.
Hi, my name is Maddie, and my business name is LifeLab. The problem that I am aiming to solve is bridging the gap between what we are taught in formal education, like learning the Pythagorean theorem and calculus and all that, and the essential life skills that we need. So, like adulting life skills, how do you take care of your car and your home, and how do you file your taxes and such? Um, so looking to solve that problem by creating a mobile app and web platform that will provide verified expert information in the various different topics that is personalized to you with an AI algorithm and personalized to your learning style. And the idea is to have all of this information all in one place and with step-by-step guidance, because when I looked at the competition and how people are currently solving the problem, of course, there's YouTube and there's all these free options. But I want it to be step-by-step guidance that's all in your pocket, in one place that is easy to access. I'm looking at the target demographic of Gen Z and young millennials, and additionally, parents of college kids who are about to fly the nest, if you will.
Okay, so you were right on time. Great. So, couple things. One is, I don't even know how big this market is. I'm assuming, I don't even know if people are doing this today. It sounds like there might be some people doing this today, so it might be helpful to understand the scope of this market. I also don't understand the implications of it, right? The implications of this problem. So one of the things for everyone in this room is you need some attention grabber. So what is the story here? Give us a story of someone you know, in this case, that didn't learn one of the life skills that you find super important that you're going to be starting out with in your offering, that then really brings the problem home to the person you're talking to. So it makes sense conceptually. I just don't understand whether or not the problem is really that impactful. Like, what life skill are you thinking about, right? Cooking, or you know what I mean? Like, just giving some more context and bringing the problem into reality for somebody will be
Yeah.
super helpful for you. The other thing I will say is you are targeting a lot of different people, and you, when you're developing the experience, vernacular is gonna matter in the screens. You're probably gonna market to these people very differently, these different segments. So having a thought around how you begin, meaning you're gonna start with Gen Z, and then you'll talk about your expansion in your pitch, but in your elevator pitch, you're probably gonna want to get really tight on bringing a real person to life and the life skill that they're lacking and the impact it has on them, but also helping people understand the size of this market and potential spend to be thinking about.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. So, George, I see your hand up. Let me find you here a second. George Zucker. Okay, got you. Let me start the timer. Hold on one second. On your mark, get set, and go.
Hey Heather, I'm working on Astro Parks, which is an integrated end-to-end parking management solution. The goal here is typically parking management is distributed to several different services. One has a means for accepting transactions, and there might be for security or surveillance. Another one might be for enforcing compliance. And the goal here is to, with the minimum lift or burden, to be able to turn any parking space into a qualified parking structure. So there are lots of parking spaces in the United States that are not operational at specific times, such as maybe a dentist office might be operational from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And after 5 p.m., that space might be desirable or in higher demand. So the goal here is to enable the dentist office to generate or collect additional revenue, increase the uptime of their parking structure, and enable parkers to find more spaces.
Awesome. Okay. All right. So start with the problem, then talk about your solution. Help me understand this is an opportunity that I should be interested in. As soon as when you started just talking about it's a parking management, we talk about compliance, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, I don't really know what we're talking about. If you once you then talked about the problem, look, all these dentist office, I mean, you made it so specific. I was like, oh my gosh, I know numerous people that have, buildings that they are trying to build commercial revenue, and given chaotic economic times, this is actually hugely beneficial. So as soon as you helped me understand the problem, then I went back to what you said in the first part and said, oh, I'm connecting the dots. So I usually would like to start with the problem and how big it is. I might even think about how many of these parking spots are out there in the world, right? Or in the US. It might, or just in the city. Like, hey, in Portland alone, there are 1 million parking spaces that after the hours of 9 to 5 go dark. Like we're not leveraging that land. So great problem to have. It's a great problem. It made me really interested, but reorder how you talk about it to get people hooked to hear more.
Understood. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah. All right. So, Lori, let's see where you are here. Lori, got you. Okay, let me start the timer.
Okay. You ready?
Not yet. Hold on one sec.
Okay,
Sorry.
great. No, it's
When you
okay.
got to cancel and then you got to start over and then you got All right. On your mark, get set, and go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Laurie. I am CEO and co-founder of Mixed Dream AI, which is the dream journaling app that helps, uses AI to help people track and interpret their dreams, and then also decode the meaning behind their dreams. When most people wake up from sleeping, they forget their dreams within minutes of waking up. Because of a chemical called noradrenaline, which spikes in their brain when they wake up. And the problem is that the current dream apps on the market, their user interfaces are super cluttered, and they don't really follow Hicks' law, which is makes it really hard for them to input their dreams. And by the time they find the area to input their dreams, they forget their dreams because of that spike in that chemical. And so Mixed Dream AI captures their dreams effortlessly. And then we're going to offer like a one tap icon on the front of the iPhone or any phone, really. And so they can voice to text their dreams into the app. And it'll be like more of an intuitive interface. And then let's see what else. And the AI that we use will actually help them make sense of what they just dreamed about. And yeah, and it's also fast and it's more personal, and they're able to save their dreams. And yeah, and that's all I have right now.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Great.
How fast was that?
Right on time.
Oh,
Okay.
no, perfect.
Yeah. So Lori, who are you targeting?
We are targeting, well, we have two different markets. We're going to do B2B and also B2C. So.
Okay, but who is the customer?
Well, customers are, there's some, let's see, I would say like spiritual people who are into dream analysis, dream journalers, therapists, who else?
Okay, so
therapists.
So that's fine. My point is get clear on who you're targeting, because if you're targeting therapists, you're gonna position it differently. You might have different packaging, you might have whatever that is. Versus if you're going after maybe a spiritual person that just wants to analyze his or her own dreams. So you're going to want to get really clear on who your target is. It doesn't mean you can't target both. I'm just saying to be really good early in your business and making sure you're only spending money on what you should be spending on and get returns quickly, you want to be very focused. So I would investigate 2 or 3 different types of customers and help get an understanding of who they are, how they look at this kind of stuff. We're going to talk a lot more about that today. And then one other thing, talk about the problem. So I didn't really hear a problem. This feels like a hobby. And so I'm hearing that there is this Hicks law. We lose sight of our dreams after, a couple minutes of being awake. what's the impact to that? And how many people in this world, it sounds like there's a bunch of competitors out there. So help me as an investor understand why I should want to invest in this market. Because I just don't know, like, is it because, 90% of the United States, wants to analyze their dreams and are looking for ways to do that? Or is this, there's a segment in the market that invests heavily in understanding their, mental states. And one of those is dream journaling. I don't know what that is, but I would really get very sharp on the problem you're solving and the impact that it has and sort of the size of this market.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. It's supposed to project to about 585 billion by 2027, the sleep and wellness tech industry. So it's supposed to reach that, but I didn't include that because I'm a little nervous. I'm still working it out.
No, that's okay.
Yeah.
Believe me, this is not going to be perfect right now. I'm learning too because I want to learn your business, but then I'm doing it through this exercise just so you can kind of get, this is something you're going to want to have at your fingertips, this elevator pitch. And if you don't have it now, that's fine. For some of you, it's your very first time doing this. I'm fine with that. All I'm trying to do is figure out, okay, what are you offering? What's the problem you're solving? And then how do we evolve it? So you start getting really good at a 90-second elevator pitch because you could be in a hallway at a conference or at a mixer with somebody that is an angel investor that might be looking to fund interesting ideas, right? And you just want to be ready for that conversation.
Yeah, thank you. Totally. Thank you.
Yeah. So let's do Ben. I see you up next on my screen. Ben, let me put the timer on your mark,
Okay.
get set, and go.
Great. My name is Ben, and I'm making an app called Storydex, which helps well-traveled tourists connect more deeply with the places they visit by showing them short, powerful stories about nearby locations anywhere in the world. So it's easy to learn about major locations, but it takes a lot of research to find interesting stories about these local places. So for example, I used the app recently at my house, and it told a story about the movie theater 2 blocks from me, where the theater claims to have an IMAX, but people figured out the screen is actually the same size as every other theater screen. So now customers call it the LIMAX, which I thought was funny. And so my initial target audience is tech-savvy, well-traveled, English-speaking tourists who care about local history, culture, and place-based learning, specifically focused on tourists interested in these super local stories.
Great. All right, you had time to spare. So my advice for those of you that have time to spare, use up the time, right? You want to really, and again, this is all the first time for some of you, which is fine. But really, when I founded my company, I was standing in front of a mirror and nailing the 90 seconds and practicing, right? In front of a mirror, how am I grabbing people? I'm practicing with other people. And so use that time to its fullest extent. So Ben, the very, very focused on your customer base, which is great. How big is this opportunity? How do you communicate the viability of the market or the opportunity?
Yeah, I'm trying to make it as focused as possible, so kind of as small as possible as a solo founder who's not looking to get funding. So I mean the market of tourists is giant, but then I want to focus it on a very narrow niche that is interested in these kind of local historical stories. And so I think that's something that could, if I really focus on that group, then I can have less competition and then suit their needs better.
Yeah,
So
I don't argue. I'm not
strategy.
arguing. Yeah, no, that's absolutely right. And so my question is well, and if you're not looking for funding, that's fine too, right? But if you're looking to pay for itself, I guess my question is like, how big? I feel like I'm a tech savvy tourist that loves local stories. So I mean, I probably would be a target customer of yours. Because it is niche, like how many of these folks do you think are out there, and just being able to think through kind of how big is this? Is it going to be able to pay your bills, right? And
Mhm.
but I think it's an interesting idea. Absolutely. Um, but great focus. I love the focus. So
Great.
let's do
Thank you.
Nicole.
Yes, let me lower my hand first. I don't want to give you a high five before I start.
Okay, let me start the timer again.
Okay. Tell me when you're ready.
Okay, on your mark. Wait, hold on, I gotta find you. On your mark, get set and go.
Hello, my name is Nicole Schur, and my business is the Needs Languages. And the problem we're solving is this. Imagine having 50 employees or more. And right now in the United States, about 31% of employees are disengaged in the workplace. Now, you may not think that's a lot of employees, but if 31% of your employees are disengaged, how much money do you think that's going to cost your company? Well, I can tell you right now, and this is a global issue, it's costing companies in total around $438 billion. Think about how much that's costing your company. So we have a solution at the Needs Languages. And what that solution brings is we understand how people are processing information, and we bring tools and skills to your HR staff, your managers, and even your teams that are able to bring employee engagement, resolve conflicts, and help bring that engagement back. Because again, you don't want to be in that circle of losing billions of dollars, millions, thousands. So, this is one of the reasons why you want to work with us. And right now, we are putting together an app so you can actually graph out and put together what energy levels your people have and how to work with that so that you can get the best out of your employees.
All right,
And then,
time's up. Sorry.
okay, nope, I was going to use the full 90 seconds.
You got it. You got it. Okay, so great at sizing the market. As soon as you were like 31% of employees today are disengaged. I mean, I understand. I've worked in the corporate environment, worked in the startup environment, and disengaged employees are hugely costly
Mhm.
to the company. And the 438 billion in costs. And I'm assuming that's just sort of in turnover. So you have to hire new employees because they get totally disengaged, or the productivity levels of these folks are so low that you're not actually producing what you would expect to produce. Is that how I should translate the 438?
It's the productivity level. Conflict in 2008 cost companies $359 billion. This is just productivity from what I saw, the research said.
Awesome. Okay, so big problem, got me hooked. I wasn't quite sure what the leading cause of the disengagement was. So then when you started talking about tools and needs language, like I just couldn't connect the dots. So it might be as you think about this and articulating the problem and maybe the root cause of the problem. Again, we're going to talk about this here quite a bit today, is how to think about root cause, to then really be able to capture the biggest piece of the problem early. So thinking about those root causes and then being able to articulate how your solution actually impacts that, maybe giving an example, might be helpful.
Okay, I do have a question on that because I can tell you what those problems are: lack of belonging and trauma and all the diversity issues. But right now, with this administration, if you use those words, a lot of times you aren't going to get hired because you can get in trouble by using those words. And so there's a lot of issues going on around that. And so a lot of my issues, haha, as I say this, is language. And so it's refiguring out how to formulate that because apparently woman is a swear word now. And so how do we and I think that's one of my biggest issues is how do I then reformulate? Because I can tell you what the root causes of all this are. It's mostly trauma. People are feeling really traumatized, especially after COVID, but you can't use those words.
Yeah, so couple thoughts. One is you're not targeting the people that are going to shut you down. So you want to use a language that's going to appeal to the customers that you want to get. So I appreciate that, but I also feel like you're going after the people that are going to want to pay to have this problem solved, recognize it as a problem. So I hear you, but I also think if this is what you're solving for, you've got to be upfront about it. Now, if you change a language, maybe you tell a story of somebody. You don't use the language of trauma. You say, look, this is what this person is going through their average day. Here's the challenge that they had in day one. Here's the tool that we offered, and here's what happened in day 30. Or I don't know what it is, but bring a real human circumstance to life and how your tool actually has impacted them. And that's going to be really important in your pitch. But I'm a little brash when it comes to I hear the sort of the frustration with the language, but you're targeting these people that actually value what you're offering. So I wouldn't be candy coating it and creating such a generic message that it dilutes it so much that you're actually not going to get the people that you're actually targeting. Does that make sense?
It does. And Heather, I really appreciate that because I think storytelling is one of the best ways you can get
Yes.
across that. And that's what I wanted to come at you with was a story.
Yeah.
And really create that visual and imagery because that's how we reprogram our subconscious mind and we also get sales. And so I think that really I'm going to focus on how to write the story around this. And thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. All right. Let's go. So Nick. I'm going to start the timer here. Let's see. On your mark, get set, and go.
Hey there, my name is Nick Morgan. I'm the co-founder and chief technology officer at Nick's Dream AI, a AI-powered dream journaling and interpretation app. When people wake up in the morning, 95% of us forget our dreams. And our dreams are a way that we process things that happened to us in the day before we went to sleep and basically in all of our previous waking hours. At 8 hours a day, that's about 120 days a year that we're not processing or understanding the kinds of things that are going on in our minds, the things that we're experiencing. So with Nick's Dream AI, we're going to be offering an app that allows people to improve themselves through understanding their dreams, to unlock the power of their subconscious through analysis and journaling and trend analysis over time. And it will be a place where people that are interested in psychology and subconscious exploration can come to learn about themselves. Currently, the sleep and wellness tech industry is at about the wellness and self-improvement industry is at about $1 billion in 2023. And by 2027, sleep and wellness alone should reach about $500 billion. So we're excited to sell to B2B as well as to just regular consumers. I think we're at time.
All right. Out of time. Okay. So one thing, I'm assuming you and Lori are on the same team, right?
Yeah.
So the one thing I still feel like we want to hear is why do I care about analyzing dreams? And by the way, I'm a fan of this because I bought a bunch of books early on because I knew that if I understood what was going on in my dreams, it would help me understand what was going on in my self-conscious while I'm awake. Because there's a big connection to
Right.
sort of mental health and
Absolutely.
and there's a lot of connection and I didn't hear that at all. And so
I know.
I want to make sure we're understanding the problem that gets people excited to invest.
Yeah, if I had 30 more seconds, I would have said that recent research has uncovered,
It's fair, but I want to get through everyone. So
for sure.
we've already had 1 minute and 30 seconds.
That's 3 minutes. All right.
Yeah,
I'll give
you've
it
had
back.
3 minutes. So, but I think we're going to want to really tighten up. What is this problem? Why should I care? Right. And if it's a hobby, great. I don't think it is. That from what I kind of hear from the words, I think there are some implications here, but I get crisp about it.
We're just scratching the surface barely. Yeah.
Totally. All right. So who would like to go? Adama, do you want to go next?
Sure, yeah.
Did I say your name correctly or wrong?
Yes, that's correct. Almost how my mom would call me.
Adama, and let me make sure I found you. Oh, I found you. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to start your timer on your mark, get set, and go.
Hello, everybody. My name is Adama Toure. I am the co-founder of SET. We co-founded SET because during my internship in Denmark, I find out through my project that there is about 8 million tons of solar panels that are decommissioned, right? And then out of those 8 million ton, 60% of those one can be reused. And then 90% of all those solar panels usually go to landfill. And so really we wanted to bring a solution to safely reuse those second life, so those solar panels in the second life application. That's when I find out that reusing solar panels is not as simple as I thought. So we're gonna need some device that's gonna monitor them so that they are safe in those second life application. So I started working on that project and then participating in some competition. And now when I started doing the market research, I find out that addressing the root cause, like monitoring the solar panels so that they don't go to landfill, is not a problem that people care to solve right now because solar panels are really, really cheap. But what we could do, we could, like reuse those ones. We could make it safer to be reused. And then I contacted some agency here, so nonprofit organization. They told us like what they actually need is a device that's gonna allow them to
Right, time's up.
to
Sorry, Adama.
okay.
Time's up. Okay, so I just want to make sure I understood what we're solving for here. There's a bunch of decommissioned solar panels that are being thrown
Yes,
into um, landfills.
yes,
What you're trying to do is save those and reuse those.
yes.
Is your product tracking solar panels before they go to? I wasn't quite sure what the solution was in this sort of cycle, in this value stream. Are you a tracking product, or are you actually, oh, somebody's getting ready to decommission, so I'm going to take that over. I'm going to find a purpose for it.
No, no, no. We will, we make it safer to reuse those solar panels. Like we make a sensor. Our product is a sensor that we make that's gonna attach to solar panels, and then as it is working, we can, track the health. Yeah,
Right.
that's our
So
solution. Yeah.
once they're decommissioned, you put some sort of sensor on it, and
Yes.
then when it's on its second use,
Yeah.
you're tracking the health of this product, this solar panel.
Yes, we make sure that they're all, they are safe because if one is not working well, it could lead to fire. It could like lead to some
Ah,
emergency. So
that's
we want to
what
make
I'm
sure
looking at.
that
I
we want to
gotcha.
make sure that like everything is safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So that might be that would be super helpful to understand. So you t helped me really understand like how many get decommissioned, which was great. Helps me understand the size of the problem. I didn't quite understand why it was important to track them. So helping understand that problem, which is, man, these are dangerous
Yeah.
in Second Life, and they have to be tracked so that we don't start fires, yada yada yada. That part I missed. So maybe we just think about how to get more tight around the true problem of the danger related to decommissioned solar panels.
Yes, I want to tell a story. I guess, it is usually I go really fast, but telling the story take a little bit more time. But next time I'll,
Yeah,
make more
great.
concise. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Let's see. Who has not gone
I'll
yet?
go.
Oh, who said I'll go?
I'll
Stefano?
go. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Oh,
Sam, you were the one Sam, you yelled out, right? I want to
yeah,
be.
I don't mind waiting if Amdal's ready to
No,
go.
go ahead,
Okay.
Sam.
All
Carry on.
right.
Okay, let me put a timer on your mark. And Sam, you're Sam Reed, correct?
Yeah.
All right. On your mark, get set, and go.
Yeah, so I'm Sam Reed. I'm co-founder of a company called Elemental. The problem that we are solving is the large amount of time that is lost, the large amount of wage expense that is lost each year to what I like to describe as the corporate equivalent of Mad Libs. So what I mean by that is that a lot of businesses have templates that they use for various things. A perfect example is we're working with a marketing firm that after every intro client call, they then fill out the same set of slides with a proposal for their prospect. Things of that sort are everywhere. Maybe an example in the VC space would be a decision deck, getting back to whether you invested in a startup or not. So the way that we actually solve this problem is we allow you to take your PowerPoint and Word documents, turn those into a template with some special, syntax that we understand in the platform, and then you upload the file. You configure very precise instructions for how that template should be filled out. And then whenever you need, the actual presentation or the actual document generated, you just upload your background context like meeting minutes.
Got it. Okay. And right on time. So is this sort of a desktop app, or it looks like it's a desktop app? Is that how I should think about this?
No, it's actually a web app that you just upload files to. So you access it through a web browser. But we do write to PowerPoint and Word format, so you can download it and work with that through those desktop applications. But our app is a web application.
Okay. And what's the size of the market? I can imagine this is fairly large, but if you're doing a marketing, if you're focused on sort of marketing folks, you might buy your technology a little bit different versus if you're focused on CEOs, right? You might be thinking different, or even VCs.
Yeah, absolutely. So kind of two answers to that question. I'll be quick, but we built it with a marketing firm. So that's who we are advertising to. That's what our SEO is all about right now. So if you look at just marketing agencies and creative agencies, we actually have a blog post where we looked at this, but we think that we could save in terms of billable hours, again, just indexing off of the client that we're working with, but about $40,000 in billable hours per year. If you multiply that by the 60,000 agencies that there are in the US, that gets you to over a $2 billion market in terms of opportunity cost. So, even being able to capture just half of that is huge. That being said, we're not convinced that that is the best first market for us to go off of. So we're trying to talk to anyone that will talk to us right now.
Yeah. Okay. That helps. Yeah. So, and this one feels like it's got several markets you could go down, so, but just knowing that market size actually helps because I wasn't quite sure. So good. Okay. Yeah. So good start. And I think as you think about personas today or tonight, you might have deeper opinion, I guess, on who might be the first one you want to target.
Awesome.
Okay. So I just want to make sure I've got Stefano left. I've got Nick. Is he here? I've got Giram, Julian, Kevin. All right. So Stefano, why don't you go next?
Sure, I'll go.
All right. So let me set the timer on your mark, get set, and go.
Hi, I'm Stefano, and I'm the CEO and founder of Smile Solution. We help companies, big and small, tackle issues like stress, burnout, low employee engagement and retention, and lack of productivity. How do we do that? Well, with experiential training and keynote presentation in a way that allows fun, discovery, and play. We like to turn things around. We like to bring humor and laughter to the hard stuff. And guess what? It works because companies that prioritize well-being seen a 21% boost in productivity and a 41% decrease in turnover. So if you work with us, your employees are going to reduce burnout and stress. Basically, work will feel like fun again. You're going to increase productivity, so you're going to make more money, and you're going to lower employee turnover because, as you already know, that's very, very expensive. Actually, that's going to cost your company twice as much as they're paying that salary. So what are you waiting for?
All right. Okay, Stefano. So a couple things. If I'm gonna focusing on the problem of retention, I might do very different things than if I was focusing on the problem of productivity or lower productivity. So you're going to want to get really tight on which one you're focused on first. You also talked about reducing stress. All three of those are very different problems that you might go down the different path of what you might focus on first. The functionality or the offering might differ. Your prioritization of the offering and the features of the offering, if you will, might be different if you focused on reducing stress versus retention versus productivity. I'm not saying there isn't some correlation here, but depending on what you're focused on first, you're going to be advertising things differently. You're going to probably you're going to prioritize different features in your marketing and your reasons to believe. All of that will be different depending on which problem you're solving. So think about what's first. And then I didn't quite understand what the product was. So is this a application, a service, content? Like what is it that is going to address one of those problems?
It's me. It's training and keynote presentation.
Okay, so you're doing some training. Okay. All right. Okay, cool. So yeah, we're gonna want to get tight on what problem we're solving and then what does your solution look like that then leads people to believe, wow, he's got a product that is gonna have some durable competitive advantage here and it's gonna solve the problem and it's a big problem. So think about that as we're going through tonight. Okay, so we've got Drasti. Did I say your name right? Drasti?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
you did.
Okay, great. Let's see. So on your mark, get set and go.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Drosti, founder of Simplify 360. So currently, the senior living industry is facing some growing pressure with 10,000 Americans turning 65 every day, with more regulations, tighter state audits, and massive staffing shortages exceeding 50% turnover annually. Yet, most facilities are managing these trainings manually with spreadsheets, binders, and last-minute scrambling before inspections. We are building a training compliance platform that focuses on these facilities to automate certification training, delivering required trainings, and adapting learning for each staff. Our system not only saves administrators and managers dozens of hours each month, but it also gives frontline staff a personalized, supportive learning experience that helps them feel valued and confident in their roles.
Awesome. Okay. Got some time left over. Drasti, there's a whole host of things you could be training and building compliance around. What is this health? Is this what's the training and compliance for?
It's primarily training compliance, state required training compliance. I'm very much focusing on Oregon market.
Okay, and give me an example.
So the examples would be like dementia training, caregiving training, infection control. So there are a whole host of trainings that are required for entry-level staff before they can be hands-on. Primarily, this impacts caregivers, med techs who are providing direct care, but it applies to everyone who works in senior living because Oregon requires at least 6 to 8 hours of training from everyone who works in senior living.
I see. Okay. Okay, so good. So I might think about that because initially I thought this was like healthcare, like nurses training or whatever. So what I'm hearing, which I didn't know this, super helpful, is there's this base layer of training, regardless of what function you're in within a assisted, is it assisted living? Is it hospice? Is it
assisted living and memory care?
And memory care. Okay. Yeah. So I might help people understand, like, I think you set it up pretty well. And then as soon as you started talking about training compliance, I really didn't know who you were training and building the compliance for. Now that I know, look, every single new employee to assisted living is required to go through 8 hours of training, and every state is different. So it's becoming super complex for multi-state healthcare provider or assisted living providers, right? Because these are massive companies in a lot of and that's the other thing. Are you focusing on sort of the franchises or the small mom and pops? I would also say you'd be doing very different things in how you'd market and how you'd package the offering, depending on who you're targeting. So I might just get tight on that one as well.
Okay.
All right. So let's keep going. We're running a little bit behind. I want to make sure everyone gets a shot at this. So I've got Amdal.
Yes.
And then I just want to make sure, and then I have Giram, right? And then I have Julian. Is Julian here? No. Okay, and then Kevin and LC. Oh, and Nick. So
Yes.
maybe Nick, you're here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so we've got 3 more. All right. So Amdal,
Hi, I'm Amdal.
second on your mark, get set, and go.
Hi, I'm Amdal, chairman of Beaverhand. Nowadays, on average, a job seeker spends 294 job applications to land on one interview. It's a really stressful and painful process, and people get burned out. And on average, companies spend 250 online applications to screen just one opening they have in their company. And the 198 billion of the staffing market is still stuck in a really outdated system full of bias and make that process completely complicated for people. At Beaverhand, we decided to use AI to train job seeker for job interview using the state-of-art model we built, providing human-like interaction with video and audio to make job seeker interview ready and also help company to move faster in their hiring process and make it easier and cheaper for them. So we're expecting to provide it in a unified platform, a mobile app for job seeker, freemium, allowing them to train as much as they want, and an enterprise platform for company to identify all those candidates who have been showcasing really high score on our training app and have an opportunity to send them a job offer. With Beaverhand, we want to make it easier for everyone
Right,
and eliminate the application process.
Time's up, Amdal. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is focused. You're targeting both employees, or I shouldn't say employees, job seekers and
Recruiters.
companies that are hiring. So
Yes.
hiring managers and job seekers.
Exactly.
And so are you doing sort of this connection marketplace? Is that kind of what I should think about?
So, I really don't want to call it a marketplace because it's like turning people into product. The way we do it is we provide the tools to both of the party. Like job seeker, they have an app to train for job interview, and companies, they have a platform to sort all the resume they've been receiving, but at the same time, they have access to the talent. They highlight talent
So
coming
I'll
from the
stop you there. I'll stop you there. I get it. So it is a marketplace. I know you don't want to call it that, but from an investment perspective,
It's a
your
marketplace.
success is dictated on a critical mass of both sides.
Yes.
So that's the key. That is expensive and that requires a lot of focus. So I just want to make sure that as we are going through the next couple days together, that you're going to be thinking about how you achieve critical mass and how you're going to focus on making sure you're focused on the type of job seekers and then the hiring managers for those job seekers so that you can create successful relationships. So
Yeah.
we're just going to have to be really tight on who those people are. Are you starting in a particular market or a particular
Sure.
function or something like that, right? So we're gonna have to think about how focus comes and I love the stats that you use at the beginning, super helpful and showed the impact of what you are trying to tackle. And so then it's just going to become how can you prove to your potential investors that you understand how to drive critical mass in this two-sided marketplace that's going to drive a successful business model. So, but good start. All right, let's do Giram. I'm going to start the timer on your mark. Get set and go.
Hi, my name is Groom. My company is called Sweetpod.ai.
So there is this huge problem currently happening in the United States because of big data. According to IBM in Harvard Business Review, the US loses around $3 trillion each year. So this happens because companies rely on highly technical softwares and programming languages to clean bad data. The volume of data needs cleaning is too large to clean in some companies. And to fully leverage data for growth, companies must hire expensive data scientists and data analysts in their company, which is not sustainable. So our solution is Sweeper.ai. It's an AI automated error detection in data cleaning system. You can use natural language to control it, so our users can clean their data, and the system learns from each of their actions, so they don't have to solve a repeated problem again and again. Our other solution is it dramatically reduces the need for expensive technical teams. It's faster, cheaper, and easier
Right.
than
Time's up. Sorry, Karoom. Okay, so good start with 3 trillion every year is lost to what? Complex data solutions. Is that how I should connect the dots on that 3 trillion lost?
Yes, so there is a bad data, and it's hard to clean it.
Okay. So just fixing bad data is a $3 trillion business right now. Yep. Okay. All right. So one thing I will say, depending on who you're trying to get funding from, right? You may find a VC that is highly concentrated in complex tech, right? Potential data science related companies. And in that case, I would say you're probably fine to talk about it the way you talked about it. But for those VCs that aren't, that they've got sort of a portfolio of mixed type of companies, you're going to want to dumb it down a little bit. And I hate saying that, but making it a little bit more, hey, look, here's an example of what has happened. Bring a use case to life, right? Look, this company has, X number of terabytes of data, and they just spent 100 million because this field became truncated when they moved it over to this, you know what I mean? Like just showing a little bit of a common example and the cost it takes to fix that. Because I was like, some of the language you used, I understood it because I'm in tech. But I've been in the rooms with VCs where it's like, I don't know the opportunity here. I'm not really sure where this is going. And so because I don't understand it, it's hard for me to invest in it, right? So you're just going to want to make sure you're know your audience and be able to articulate this problem in a way that people go, yeah, I can totally see why that's huge, right? And I can see why this new solution is going to make an impact. All right. So I want to make sure. So we've got Amdal. We went through Amdal. We got Garoom. Okay, so we've got, I think, one more, which was Nick. Is that correct? Is there anyone else that I have missed? All right. So Nick, let's.
Yes.
And this is, yeah. Okay, so I don't see you, so I don't know. Okay, so on your mark, get set, and go.
Hello, my name is Nick. I am the CEO of Skyfair Academy. My team and I are building a transactional aviation marketplace that connects pilots at all stages with flight school, independent instructor for flight training. Today, pilot training in the US is highly fragmented, inefficient, and outdated. With over 800,000 pilots in the US, student pilots still struggle to find flight training, compare options, and build a clear training path. Flight school and independent instructor, meanwhile, face inefficiencies in lead generation, booking, payment, student retention, and marketing, all while relying on manual or outdated tools. This results in more than 75% student drop away, underutilized instructor capacity, and poor transparency across the ecosystem. We solve this by providing a modern end-to-end marketplace that supports every phase of the flight training journey. In the long term, we aim to complete the broader ecosystem for flight training by adding services such as aircraft rental and sharing, aviation insurance, and other offerings that are crucial yet often fragmented as well. It will also unlock opportunities for more products that can grow the overall market over time. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. That was very tight. I liked it.
Thank you.
So you are also a two-sided marketplace, which is an audacious business model, but I can see the need. So what you're going to be working on is where do I begin, right? What is the focus I'm going to have on the pilot side or the aspiring pilot side, and what is my focus on the school side, and how I'm going to make that relationship work so that it drives growth early. So having an understanding of what is your early offering, because I heard a ton of different value props that you had in there, right? A ton of value you're thinking about different features of the service. And so it's going to be really helpful for you to sort of build kind of a roadmap. What is going to be your kernel of the early offering that's going to drive connections and value, and then expand it, which I kind of heard at the end, hey, we can also expand it here. But what we're going to want to do is really think hard about, maybe it's a location focus first, or maybe it's a aircraft type first, or maybe it's a, tenure first. I just don't know, but being able to articulate how you're gonna kick off the critical mass for both sides of the marketplace is going to be key for you.
Agree.
All right, so I think we got everyone. Is that correct? Woo! Nice job, everyone. Now, we're going to learn a ton again over the next couple of days, and you're going to want to evolve those pitches, and you're going to be communicating those pitches again, I think, in a couple weeks, based off of and having evolved it through what we're going to learn in the next two sessions. So great job. And for those of you that this is your first time, all of you did a great job. I mean, you and at this stage of the game, it's perfect time to just test it out and then continue to evolve as you make decisions. All right, let's jump into the content now. So we're going to start with the first, what I call customer foundation, which is, what is the problem? And how do you word it in a way that allows you to make decisions? So people don't want a 1/4-inch drill. They want a 1/4-inch hole. So think about that for a second, right? You're not a drill builder. You actually are trying to solve the 1/4-inch hole problem. And that could be through a drill. It could be through a number of things. So what we want to do is get to the heart of the matter and define the problem that we're solving in a way that allows us to make decisions. It allows us to say no to things. It allows us to say yes to things. And so that's what we're going to focus on. So what is a problem statement? It's the problem you're solving that's concise and clear. It's the job you're hired to do, right? What is your product being hired to solve for? It's the focal point for your strategy. It's your go-to definition. It allows you to make really great decisions and trade-offs with confidence. Now, what it isn't, it's not a lack of a solution. Well, there's not a solution that does this. That's the problem. No. They're doing it some way, somehow. So if I just take the journaling, the dream journaling, right? There is a solution out there today. You can do it on paper, right? That's a substitute, right? And so all of you there's a problem out in the marketplace that is being solved through potentially manual effort, but it's being solved. So what is it? And your problem statement is not, the solution isn't inherent or built into the problem statement, right? You want to stay away from defining the solution within the problem statement. And it's not all things to everyone. We call that boiling the ocean. We're not trying to boil the ocean, right? We're trying to be very focused. And it's really focused on more of a root cause and not a symptom. Solving symptoms aren't always the best thing to do as a business. If you're solving a symptom, oftentimes there's another symptom. The root cause still exists, so you're not really ever getting ahead of it. And so the delight in the delight is never really accomplished for the customer. And therefore, from a competitive perspective, you're not really going to be that competitive if you're only solving a symptom. So we always want to be looking at the root cause of the problem and really solving it better than anybody else. So I'm going to give you an example. We are saving hospitals money by reducing insurance claims forms submitted with errors to supported insurance companies. That is ineffective. Here is an actual effective problem statement. Insurance claims forms originating through emergency departments at state-run hospitals are causing a loss of revenue, excessive rework costs, and delayed payments to the hospital. 45% of the claim forms have errors with an average of 2.3 defects per form. Tell me what the difference of these two are.
You provide metrics. Exactly.
So say it again.
I said some nice data points in the second one.
So you got a lot of data, right? It helps us understand how we're measuring success. If we don't know how we're going to measure success in solving the problem, how do we know we've even solved the problem, right? So that puts a measurable way to evaluate whether or not we've solved the problem. What else?
More specific about who the customer is.
Yes, right. If you look at the first one, you just say saving hospitals. Well, I got to tell you, I've been in health tech for years, and hospitals come in many shapes and sizes. There's public hospitals, there's state-run hospitals, there's VA, there's academic institutions, there's for-profit. They all run their business very differently. And so if I'm solving for insurance claims forms for for-profit versus a state-run hospital, you can bet that I'm going to be talking to different people and being measured by different measures of success at the hospital, right? What else?
It seemed to tell a story a little more clearly, kind of set the stage. It was easier for me to just imagine things you were saying as they're coming out in the second scenario.
Yeah. The other thing I will say is through emergency departments is also really important here. Problem statement should help us identify who we're going to talk to see if we've even solved their problem. Who are we going to talk to understand the problem at an intimate level so that we know that we're solving it well? Well, we wouldn't have known in this first problem statement because hospitals are so large and every department is different. A cardiac care unit is different than an emergency department. They think about claims differently. They operate differently. They have different heads of departments with very different specialties. So not knowing who we're talking to is a huge problem. And so the second one really articulates we're going to emergency departments, and we're probably going to emergency department directors or leaders that make decisions on the software that they're going to buy to procure for their departments, because most departments operate differently, except for maybe their EHRs, if you will, the electronic health records. So you can see how important it is to understand what you're solving for in a way that's measurable so that when you're building your product, you can make decisions around what trade-offs you're going to make on the features, the functionality, the service offerings. You need to understand the problem at such a level in order for you to make any decisions. The first one is you're just boiling the ocean, sort of red herring, right? So our problem statement needs to focus on a single problem. We need to understand who it affects. We need to understand what it affects, right? Are people losing money because they're trying to clean their own data, right? Are people, because they're not learning good life skills, they end up having very difficult problems leaving their homes and going to college, and then they become depressed and yada yada yada, right? There's a domino effect. Understanding the timing. So when does this problem occur? So if you think about like TurboTax, for example, I don't know if any of you know TurboTax. It's an online tax filing solution. I led that business. The timing really was important. Some of our customer base and the problem we were solving was really being solved right around tax time, April 15th. Whereas we had other customers, maybe small businesses, or Schedule C filers. So many of you might be a Schedule C filer, which is reporting some business income on your personal income taxes. They were worried about deductions all throughout the year. So we had to be thinking about the product at different times of the year than we were used to for just than those that were filing their personal return on April 15th. So knowing when the problem or the pain points occur is super helpful as you are designing an experience, whether it be a service experience, software experience, tangible product experience. It's short. It's 2 to 3 sentences at most. We're not going for, paragraphs and paragraphs of data. Measurable. So we just talked about how measurability is super helpful in helping us understand whether or not we've actually solved the problem. So I'm going to take you through an example. So Clay Christensen, anyone know The Innovator's Dilemma? A very old book, but hugely valuable for entrepreneurs and innovators. He's written a couple books. I learned from him, super helpful in thinking through how you innovate in the market. Anyway, he had a team of people. There was a fast food restaurant whose name I will leave out. They were trying to figure out why sales of shakes were going down or were flat. And so what they were trying to do is figure out how to drive more sales of milkshakes. And so what Clay's team did is they went to a bunch of these fast food restaurants. They sat in front of the fast food restaurant and just watched people walking in and out, and would interview people that had purchased a shake. And what they found was there was a very large population of people that were coming in at like 6 o'clock rush hour in the morning, bringing out a shake and going to work during the rush hour. They were all dressed in sort of corporate wear, a lot of white collar workers, and so Clay's team sat back and was like, I wonder what problem these folks are solving for. And so what I want us to do is spend 3 minutes. I'm going to have you put together a problem statement utilizing this template. I want you to think about what these people, what this customer was solving. What's the problem they were solving with this milkshake? I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I just want you to use this template, and I want you to write up a problem statement that you believe could be happening at this hour of the day with milkshakes. Make sense? So 3 minutes, starting now. Got about another minute and a half. All right. So let's just share a couple. Who wants to share? We won't have time to go through everyone, but does anyone want to volunteer what their problem statement sounds like?
I could share.
Okay, awesome.
I said commuters want to make their long morning drive more interesting and enjoyable and need to feel satisfied and not hungry until lunchtime, but they can't achieve this due to most breakfast options being messy or inconvenient to eat while driving, which happens when they're rushing to work in the morning because traditional breakfast foods require two hands to eat or create crumbs and mess in their cars.
Nice. Okay, that's one. So can't find a breakfast that I can eat in the car, and I want to be satiated. What does anyone have something different? So I see Amdal. Oh, this is a different, this is your problem statement. So talk to me about anyone have a different problem statement than the one that Maddie talked about?
Mine is very different.
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. What do you have, Adama?
I focus on a fast food restaurant owner who wants to increase sales of milkshake and need to increase their revenue, but they can't achieve this due to lack of data on customer behaviors.
Sure. So that's a viable one for the restaurant owner, right?
Yeah.
And what we want to do is now think about the customer. What's the customer problem that we just talked about, right? We talked about how we had early morning commuters that were buying shakes. Why would they be? What problem do we think that they're solving? Does anyone have a different problem than what Maddie talked about for the customer? Okay. So, oh, another one? All right.
I had one that was slightly different. I'm not wording it super well, but I was saying that the white collar worker wants to have something to look forward to in the morning and needs to feel good before work. But they can't achieve this due to the lack of satisfaction with their job, which happens when they have to drive to work because they don't like their job or commute. Kind of
So we're solving
bundled it
for
up, but
happiness. Yeah.
yes, essentially.
Yeah. Okay. All viable, right? What we did learn is that very similar to what Maddie said, right? Career commuters want to make their long commute bearable and need to stave off boredom and feel full by the time they reach their destination, but they can't achieve this due to limited options that are available using one hand, not making a mess, which happens during the morning commute, traditional breakfast food, because traditional breakfast foods are hard to eat while driving. So this is actually what they learned. They actually went to their cars, talked to them, learned why they were buying the shake, and this is what they learned. So, a couple things. This template is really awkward, but it forces us to think about the elements that matter. And the elements that matter is knowing the who, wanting to know what they want to achieve. So, what does good look like? How do they measure success for themselves, right? And how do they feel when they've achieved that success? These are two ways that you're going to learn whether or not you've actually solved a problem for your customer. Because if we don't know what we're solving for, then we don't know how to prioritize. We don't know where to spend our money, right? And they can achieve this due to, and this is something that's getting in their way. So their perceived barrier to achieving this, which happens when we talked about timing. Timing matters in some contexts and doesn't in others. So you'll know whether it matters to you and the problem that you're solving for. TurboTax being a great example, timing really mattered in the problems we were solving, depending on the segments that we were solving for. And then you talk about the root cause. We are, in this case, the root cause was the breakfast foods were really messy and you had to eat it with two hands. That's the solution that's out there today that really was the root cause of the problem. So knowing these elements and holding yourselves accountable to creating a problem statement utilizing this template is super helpful to make sure that we're narrowing the scope in a way that's actionable. And because of this, this fast food restaurant was able to prioritize their efforts. Instead of what we normally see is 2 for 1. Let's try a bunch of different flavors. Let's try another form of chocolate. Let's fine tune one flavor or another. Tell me a little bit about what you would do if you knew this was the problem. Give me some ideas.
Add smoothies to the menu.
Add smoothies, more breakfast flavors. What else?
I would figure out what my customers wanted and how they decorate the place. Because you want people to stay longer because they order more when they stay longer than just a milkshake. And
Right.
so if you
It's their
create,
problem now. Let's focus on their problem, right? I understand that that's sort of what you think needs to happen. I want to know, what do we do to solve this problem? Breakfast foods are messy. We're trying to be satiated and we want to be full by the time we arrive to work. That's the problem we're solving for, right? And so what I want to hear is some ideas on how we solve that problem.
I'd add coffee.
We can you can order your food through an application on your phone, so you can save time on lines, and this food is going to deliver to your office by the time you're done ordering it.
Okay, but what problem is that solving?
Oh, the lack of time, and the people that don't have time to do things and go in person to order stuff.
But is that the problem that we're solving? Right? All these are viable ideas, but they're not solving the problem, right? This is the reason why we have to articulate a customer-driven problem and understand it really well. In this case, what they did was they opened up the straw, made it wider so that they could put bits of fruit and nuts in the shakes so that people could chew on the way to work, so it could stave off boredom. They went to breakfast flavors. They did more healthy flavors, but kept the consistency of a milkshake because people still love the milkshake. Again, what I'm trying to show you is the connection between having a really clear problem statement so that you can go and solve it with a very focused set of tests and concepts versus a myriad of different ways that you could solve for breakfast. Because that wasn't the problem they were hearing. They were hearing this problem. And what they did was they got so focused, no longer do they have to think about other chocolate flavors or putting doing 2 for 1s or reducing the price. What they did was they solely focused on this problem and they increased the sale of milkshakes immediately. So the goal here is to be super clear on the problem you're solving so that you're not ideating on all these other things that may or may not make a difference. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So when you're clear on the problem, like we were talking about earlier about the problem is employee engagement, or the problem here is the milkshake. But then sometimes the solution, how do you revamp the solution around that? Sometimes that can be a little more tricky. Like what you were talking about a second ago, I would have never thought to widen the straw and add fruit. So so that sometimes can be a problem when you're really focusing on the problem to really think of out of the box solutions. And what are some ways to do that? Are there
Employee engagement is such a wide area, right? So what you're trying to do is understand the root causes of disengagement. And if you understand what we understand here is the true root cause, and going after that root cause allows us to brainstorm within an area that we know is a problem. If it's employee engagement, your scope of creativity and ideation is so broad, it's almost boiling the ocean. So the goal of getting to a problem statement that focuses on the true root causes or is deciding which root causes you are or can solve is the key here. If you don't know the root cause that you're actually going after, then you are just sort of in this blue sky of a million different potential ideas, which is only wasting your time.
Okay. So can I ask another quick question?
Sure.
I know that with me, I'm also doing a focus on dark personalities, which can also play a factor in employee engagement. Although that's not the biggest factor, would you have like two or three factors that are a part of this? Like there were a couple of factors you brought in with this example, like you brought in the straw, you brought in the fruit.
Those
You
aren't factors, though. Those are ways in which we're getting after the root cause,
okay. So
right?
you would bring in multiple ways of going after the root cause.
You're going to ideate around the root cause and you're going to test your way to the right answer.
Okay. That was very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah. This is just giving you the canvas size that is manageable, right? Without understanding root causes, then you don't really know where to focus your time. Anything goes. And so the beauty of a problem statement like this, and you'll all get the template. This is also in the book that I wrote, but this is the template that Carrie will give you. As long as you can stick to making sure you're thinking about the root causes, making sure what they perceive to be getting in the way, making sure you understand how they're going to measure success so that you know whether or not you've solved their problem. If you can get those elements into your problem statement, you're going to have a much easier time in making trade-offs and deciding on what direction to take. Otherwise, you're just in this constant sort of boiling the ocean of a million different ideas and directions you could go into. And now, you may not know the answer yet. You may have 2 to 3 different root causes that you're thinking about. That's okay. We're still new in this business, right? We're still at the early startup stage of our business. Put some stakes in the ground. If you think it's 3 different root causes that you want to investigate, awesome. You can put some concepts together, test the notion of those root causes and addressing that root cause with a couple ideas, test it with your target market, see what their reactions are. Did you actually get them to feel the emotion that they're looking to feel? Are they achieving what they want to achieve with this new solution? Then you're getting closer to the right answer, right? This is an iterative process, but we got to start somewhere. Make sense?
Can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
This actually has been a point that's been really affecting me on my business because the root cause when we did analysis, for instance, was that there was, it's expensive to monitor solar panels. So when the solar panels are breaking, and one solar panel is defecting in the strings, they would like to replace the whole string because that's cheaper. And then we thought, okay, if they have a device that is cheap enough, right, to monitor solar panels, they're not gonna throw all of these solar panels in the landfill. They will last. But when we went and did some market analysis, we found out this solar farm operator, they don't want to add any cost to the system. It's still cheaper for them to just throw all the solar panels than going through the challenge of like monitoring them and stuff. And then in the meantime, we find out that people who will take those solar panels and reuse them, they have value from what we're doing because they do manual inspection and then they needed a device that could rapidly test, like those solar panels and to reuse them. So basically, we couldn't find a market in the root cause, but we did find a market in one of those symptoms. That's
Well,
kind of
no,
like my dilemma.
So, Adami, the problem you're solving is the fires and the problems and the costs associated with the secondhand usage of solar panels. That's the problem you're solving is the risks associated with the secondhand use. You're not solving a problem for people that bought them the first time around. You're solving the problem for the second time around.
Yes,
That's a different
yes,
problem, right?
yes. But initially, when we're addressing the problem, and I wanted to go to the root cause why we have like, all of these solar panels going to landfill prematurely. So,
No, but I'm sorry, and we don't have a ton of time to talk about it, but you're not solving that problem anymore. You're
yes,
solving a completely different problem for a completely different customer. You're solving it for somebody that has taken on the secondhand use of a solar panel. And what you're trying to solve for is the risk they take on by doing that and the costs associated with fires and the like. That is the problem you're solving. You're not solving the decommissioning and
Okay.
preventing decommissioning. You're solving a completely different problem.
Okay, so that's not my root cause anymore. Okay.
Oh, yeah, you're out
Okay.
of that. You're completely out of that. You've already
Oh,
discovered your way through to a new problem that is a big enough problem that people are willing to pay to have solved.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
you're in good shape.
Cool.
Okay, so let's keep going. Now, I want you to spend, let's spend like 3 minutes. I want you to write your problem for your business in this format. I want you to use this template. I want to spend 3 minutes. We don't have a lot of time, but you're going to be writing this as homework, and then we're going to cover it next week, or next time we meet. I don't know if it's next week, but we might share a couple now, but I want you to get build a little muscle. So I'm going to give you 3 minutes. I want you to write your own problem statement for your business, given everything we've talked about. Okay. So 3 minutes starting now. All right, one more minute. And one way to help you do this is step into the shoes of your customer and state it as though they were telling you what their problem is. They may not know the root cause. You know the root cause, but step into their shoes and have them tell you what their problem is. That helps us sometimes if we're mired in our own solutions. All right, time's up. How was that exercise? Easy? Hard?
It was a little challenging for me because I probably wouldn't use some of those wordings, but that was why.
Yeah, and that's okay. I want this to be awkward. You can rewrite it after you have nailed it, but until then, I want everyone to be thinking about these elements of their problem because unless we understand these elements on behalf of the customer, We are not going to have a problem statement that allows us to make trade-offs confidently. Anyone else have a thought on this, on the process of creating your problem statement? Okay. Let's share one out. Who wants to share one out? Nick?
Sure. Thanks. So it's obviously for Nick's Dream AI. Marty, a mental health and self-help enthusiast, wants to understand the psychological impact of his waking life through dream interpretation and needs to feel like he's learning all that he can, but he can't achieve this due to forgetting his dreams, which happens first thing in the morning because of a natural noradrenaline spike upon waking up.
Okay. So I think you've captured it. A couple things on that. How will you measure whether or not you've solved his problem? That's the first thing, right? Um, he wants to feel like he's learning everything he can. Is that just basically you're going to survey him and ask them on a scale of 1 to 5, do you feel like you're learning everything you can? Is that kind of how you're going to measure your success? And the achieving something, you mentioned wants to um, tell me again what he wants to achieve.
Understand the psychological impact of his waking life through dream interpretation. Basically, like understand what he experienced psychologically, but through dream interpretation.
Yeah, and so my question is, will you know whether or not you've actually achieved this in an objective way? So is it a yes or no thing? Is it a like is it I just have the answer to my question? Is it that I know exactly what the symbolism of these three things are in my dream? Like what I might be thinking about, and I don't need your answer, but what I might be
Yeah.
thinking about is how do you make this objective for yourselves so you know whether or not you've actually accomplished it, right?
Yeah,
So,
we have thought of this. Yeah, I mean, there would be
awesome.
ways to determine on a very granular level to help improve the model, and I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, yeah. So something like every dream has a interpretation, and okay, that's measurable. Boom. And then the root cause you mentioned is this Hicks law or whatever this noradrenaline.
That's different. That's a user interface principle that most of the competitor apps don't follow. But noradrenaline is just like our body booting up in the morning, and it's responsible for memory when we're awake. But when it's low, we actually have very lucid dreams, and then when that spike happens, it like basically clears the cache of our dream time while we're
Yeah.
waking up.
So your root cause is I lose the memory is lost within 5 seconds in the morning or whatever. Because you're not really solving the chemical issue or the chemistry issue. You're solving for I completely forgot.
Sure.
And so the root cause is the noradrenaline or whatever, but the problem really is they just forget. And so you're solving for that forgetfulness.
We can't journal them before he forgets, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
What you
Yeah.
said.
No, so I think it's a good start. I think it's a good start. I think you've articulated who you're solving for, which is half the battle, right? Many of us
Totally.
multiple targets, but I think you're close.
Cool.
So again, we don't have time to go through everyone's. We're going to do that next time we meet together, right? You're each going to go through an evolved version. I'm going to want you to take another draft of this for homework, and really sit back and think about it. And if you have multiple root causes, like if you're saying because this, and this, I want you to dissect it and think about 2 to 3 different problem statements, and whether or not they're actually serving the same wants to achieve, and try to put a stake in the ground at which one is the primary root cause. That's going to help a lot in what you're going to want to concept test first to see if you're actually nailing it, right? So the more we prioritize and put some stakes in the ground, the more we can go out and test a concept, find out we're wrong or find out we're right, and keep moving.
Hey, Heather.
Yeah.
Quick question. You mentioned, I think a little bit earlier that timing might play or might not play a factor
Yeah.
in our problem statement. Can you elaborate on maybe some good examples of when to use timing and when not to use timing?
Yeah, I mean, for you, timing is after 5 o'clock or some, you know what I mean? It's after hours. That will then
Mm.
help you in figuring out, after hours, I might think about a different type of marketing channel or words that I use, or you know what I mean? So yours is, I think timing matters, right? But for others, which might be, a drink, I'm producing a health drink. Timing isn't necessarily, unless it's like a breakfast thing or something like that. Um, but for some, it just doesn't matter. But for you, I think it does.
So you're not talking like macro timing. You're literally talking like potentially even specific times of day or
Yeah, I'm talking specifically, if I'm sitting in the shoes of my customer, I'm understanding their end-to-end experience and when it happens and when the pain happens,
got
right?
it. Understood.
That pain. All right, so let's keep moving. I just want to talk about a couple things. So for your homework, each of you are gonna write this, right? Write your problem statement using that template. Again, it's an awkward sentence. Don't get me wrong, I know this. But once you have that down and it's solid, you can reword it to anything to make it more in your vernacular and feel comfortable communicating it. I don't care about that. That's fine. But really utilize this template to start with. Um, if For your homework too, you're going to want to make sure if you've got multiple problems, do a couple variations if you want, right? I'm not trying to force you into only one because right now we're still early and we might want to concept test a couple different things. And that's fine. For pitches, your problem statement is important. You want your audience to thoroughly understand the problem you are solving and that you aren't solving, and help people understand how you're going to get from point A, which is a very focused problem, to point Z, which is what your vision is in year 5. But you want your investors to understand what problem you're solving for today and why you focused on that first, and then share how you will expand going forward. Again, what you're trying to do is give the investors confidence that you know what you need to spend their money on first, and then it's going to lead to the best outcomes and the fastest outcomes. Make sense? All right. So let's take a 5-minute break and then we're gonna jam the rest in an hour. So we're gonna have to hustle up. So be back here at 7:30, please. All right, let's get back to it. I'm a little bit behind. I want to make sure we get through this. All right. So now we're moving from the first customer foundation, which is the problem statement, to our second one, which is who we're solving this problem for. So for some of us, we are still trying to decide. We might have 2 or 3 that we think might be our target customer. That's okay. But what we need to do is now define them in a way that helps us make some decisions, right? The persona is a lot more about how we design an experience, whether it be a service experience, software experience, hard or tangible product experience. We want to know who this human being is that enables us to make some good trade-offs, right? It enables us to say no to things as much as it enables us to say yes to things. So I'm going to show you a funny video. And so it's a little irreverent, but I'll tell you why in a second.
Hi, I'm Mike.
Let me share my sound so that you hear the sound. One second.
We can hear it.
Yep. Somebody have a question? Okay. I'm gonna play the video.
Founder of DollarShaveClub.com. What is DollarShaveClub.com? Well, for $1 a month, we send high-quality razors right to your door. Yeah, $1. Are the blades any good? No. Our blades are f***ing great. Each razor has stainless steel blades, an aloe vera lubricating strip, and a pivot head. It's so gentle a toddler could use it. And do you like spending $20 a month on brand name razors? 19 go to Roger Federer. I'm good at tennis. And do you think your razor needs a vibrating handle, a flashlight, a back scratcher, and 10 blades? Your handsome-ass grandfather had 1 blade and polio. Looking good, Pop-Up! Stop paying for shave tech you don't need. And stop forgetting to buy your blades every month. Alejandro and I are going to ship them right to you. We're not just selling razors, we're also making new jobs. Alejandro, what were you doing last month?
Not working.
What are you doing now?
Working.
I'm no Vanderbilt, but this train makes hay. So stop forgetting to buy your blades every month and start deciding where you're going to stack all those dollar bills I'm saving you. We are DollarShaveClub.com, and the party is on.
All right. So why am I showing you that video? Who are we targeting with this product?
Men.
Beard growers.
Men, but that's a who of them who what's
People that have beard, people that want to shave.
People that want
Young adults.
younger? What else? Cost conscious?
Sure.
Not really looking for the glamour of the closest shave, the fanciness of the different razors and razor blades. These folks are simple. This is a simple product. At the time, this was in 2011, I believe. This is the Dollar Shave Club 2011, 48 hours into this, the launch of this campaign, they sold 12,000 orders. Within, I think 5 weeks, there were 500 million views, something like that, or 90 days, 5 million views. Within 5 years, they sold a Unilever for 1 billion. So why am I telling you this? It's because at the time in 2011, the majority of the razor blade and razor companies had 10 to 11 razors at least on the market. So it was just inundated, and it was all about the whiz-bang features. The majority of the commercials were about that clean, close shave in these glamorous bathrooms with getting ready for a black tie event, and it was all sex appeal. And the cost for the razors started something like 10 to 15 bucks and over. Razor blades were like 25 bucks for 6. This company went to one razor blade, $4 a month. Didn't have to worry about replenishing, didn't have to worry about all the fanciness and which one to pick, and it was all cost conscious. And they won. I'm telling you this because focus doesn't curtail growth, focus enables growth. They were able to say no to what the major gorillas in the marketplace were doing at the time. And it enabled them to focus so much that they were able to grow within days. And that's what I want for you, right? This was a brand new company. Now, have they expanded since then? Absolutely. But that's great. But they were able to start and grow very quickly and focus all of their marketing, packaging, positioning, the value proposition. They were able to say no to things that most companies weren't at the time. So I want us to think about, who are we solving for, right? Again, you could want to solve for 10 different segments eventually. The question is, who are you going to solve for first? Okay.
Hi.
So we're going to think about a persona. And a persona is basically an archetype of your customer. It's not one customer, it's an archetype of who you're going to be solving for first. And the way we do this is by thoroughly understanding our customers' behaviors, their attitudes. It's not just about demographics. In fact, demographics are less important in the development of an experience that will delight people. You need to know who these people are as a human being. So I'm going to give you a couple examples of personas that I have seen from clients. And so this is one of them, right? CEO Brent Schiller is an archetype. He is a CEO. He's 33 years in the industry. He's in his 50s. He's male. He's attended 14 events. Okay. And I will focus on what drives improvements and profits in my company. I don't know about you, but what CEO wouldn't say this? So who are you really targeting here? Think about a startup CEO. Many of you are this person. Think about a CEO of a Fortune 50 company. I bet you your days look very different than that Fortune 50's CEO. So this isn't telling us really anything about who he is as a person, about the firmographics of the company that he manages. There's nothing here that helps us truly understand what kind of experience we would want to develop. Let's try again. Helena, she's head of HR. She's married with 3 kids, been in the company 10 years. Demographics skews female. Like, I don't know what that means. Age 30 to 45, that's a pretty big difference just in life, sort of life and where they are in their career. Suburban, okay. Does that help us with sort of civil engagement? I don't know. Identifiers, calm demeanor. Oh, so maybe my experience needs to be piping Zen music in there? I don't know. Right? It's getting a little closer. We're getting to learn a little bit more about her, but certainly not, we really don't know anything about her as a human being. And what happens when we don't understand the humans that we are solving for, we tend to believe that we can solve for every single person the same way. We can use the same language. We can onboard them the same way. We can market the same way. And what ends up happening is we dilute the experience so much to try to accomplish delighting everyone that it ends up not being delightful for any one person. Or worse, we try to bulk up the experience, and whether it be a service experience, you name it, with so many different options that it creates complexity and what we call in the software industry, bloated experiences, which then drives the complexity and unhappy customers. So we want to avoid that. We want to be very clear on who we are solving for. This is an example of a persona, and this is one that you're going to want to consider developing. This is a template that we use for our company. It's a template. This is an actual persona for my fitness application. Her name was Melanie. And I want you to take a second. I want you to get to know Melanie as a human. I want you to take a look at this. I'm going to give you a minute. I want you to look at who she is, how she conducts her day. And then I'm going to show you 3 different strategies that we had at our fingertips in the business. And I want you to decide what we chose because of who we were targeting. So take a look at Melanie. I'm going to give you a minute, then I'm going to show you some features and functionality. All right. So I am going to show you, we had 3 different strategies that we were considering. We had investors that were telling us, hey guys, there are some big trends in the market that we want you to take advantage of. We also had employees in our company that were huge fitness fanatics that wanted us to solve very specific problems. What I want you to do is take a look at these different strategies. We had also board members that were influencing us. And this is really common for startups, right? You've got a lot of different influencers in the mix that are telling you what you should do, and you need to find ways to make a decision confidently. So take a look at these strategic paths that we had that we were evaluating, and then I'm going to ask you which one you think we chose given who we were targeting. So take a minute, check these out, and have a number in your head, and then we'll take a vote as I go through these. Who thinks our company took on strategic path number 1? Let's play with friends. Okay. Who thinks strategic path number 2? Establish good habits. Okay, a couple of you. Who thinks strategic path number 3? Yeah, that's what we chose. And we did this because she didn't want to be cooped up. Melanie didn't. She was all about trying new things and keeping her interest in exercising. She wanted to keep up the 4-day a week and wanted to be amused. She got bored really quickly. And so we had to focus on the discovery of fun exercise and looking and building the algorithm that served up new and exciting exercise genres. We also we focused our entire operating model on finding new and different ways to exercise. We could have gone down the path of strategic path 1 or 2, which was looking for as many yoga studios as we could so they could test different yoga studios, right? And find one that they loved. We could have gone for goal setting and building out the goal setting. That was big at the time in getting coaches to help in managing your exercise goals. But what we knew about Melanie was not that at all. Didn't mean we couldn't go and pursue that strategy later, but we knew that the person willing to pay to have their problem solved was Melanie. And we wanted to focus on what she needed to be delighted. So we chose strategic path number 3. So you can see how knowing who your customer is and defining her or him in a way that helps us make the trade-offs we need to make enables to go back to our investors. I was able to go back to my board and say, look, this is who is willing to pay, and this is what she is focused on right now and what we're trying to solve for her. That's why we're going to focus on these features and functionality first. And this is why this is our strategy first to solve this problem. Eventually, we're going to consider in our roadmap, we'll consider some of these other things as we expand into different markets, yada, 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 right? But I could justify and really build confidence or exude confidence, I should say, and have the trust of my board because they knew I was customer oriented and making decisions that I knew was going to drive growth for the company and obviously return on their investment. And that's what I want for you. I want you to be super clear on who you're targeting, knowing them so well that it helps you make decisions with confidence and that you can justify these to your investors. You want them to know that you know your customer better than anyone, better than them, and you're going to make decisions based on what your customers in the market is telling you, as opposed to what you think is right. Make sense? All
I have
right.
a question. Sorry,
Yes.
Heather. Do you end up having, or do you look for like a real specific person that, like, I read about Melanie and I imagine exactly, like, I feel like I know exactly a person that matches her. And is that, do you try to find someone like that to imagine what they would do with your product?
Yes and no. This is an archetype, not one customer, but I will say that I did meet a Melanie. And I used her name because she epitomized the segment of the market that was willing to pay to have their problem solved. And I say that with very conscientiously. She was willing to have her problem solved. A lot of people in the market had this problem, which is I want to stay enthused and I want to maintain this healthy lifestyle, but I can't because it's too expensive to belong to all these different studios. So we had to find somebody that was willing to pay to have that problem solved. Otherwise, the business was, we weren't going to win in the market. So it's not one person, but I did meet Melanie and her
Yeah.
name was Melanie, but she did represent a wide swath of the base that we believed we could delight. All right. So how did we do this? Right. And there isn't one right way to do this. I'll show you what I think most of you are in the position, and this is sort of the serial order of things that you would take, because this is how we did it in my startup. So we had an idea. We had this application that we wanted to serve up to customers to allow them to access a bunch of different studios because you could only really belong to one studio and not be able to afford everything else. And the drop-in rates were so expensive to try these different studios. Maybe you wanted to work out 3, 4, 5 times a week. It was just super expensive and you couldn't afford it. So that was the idea we had, was to solve that problem. We had a bunch of hypothesized profiles, right? We had a bunch of segments that we thought would be great for this solution, but we didn't know which one was willing to pay and which was big enough for us to go after. So we interviewed a bunch of different profiles. And this is where many of you are, right? You've got some ideas around who your profile is, but not sure, and you're not ready yet to call on one. And so we tested it with many different segments. We had the stay-at-home mom who's super busy. I'll fit exercise in when I can. We had the sort of new career person, totally exhausted, didn't have a lot of time or motivation to work out, needed inspiration. We had the super career oriented, sort of midway through her career, and she wanted to get sort of motivated later in the evenings because she didn't want to go home without exercising. She was super disciplined, but still wanted to keep it interesting. And then we didn't want to rule out men. We weren't sure. Our hypothesis was men probably weren't our target, but we didn't want to rule it out. We wanted to test that notion. And so we tested it across all those segments. So we learned which of the segments, and we honed those profiles and understood which sort of characteristics mattered to wanting to solve that problem and willing to pay to have that problem solved. So through a lot of those interviews, we actually interviewed 50 people across the different segments to learn what characteristics triggered a willingness to pay to have that problem solved. We were able to hone who our target customer was. And so what we learned was we were able to hone our problem and learn a lot more about it through these discussions. And so our problem ended up being avid outdoor female exercisers want to function effectively day to day, need to feel motivated to work out, but can't achieve this due to the monotonous exercise routine that she has, which happens when she's stuck doing the same activities in her main studio. Every one of these women actually had a home studio, if you will, maybe yoga, Pilates, something like that. Because her studio, though she loves it, focuses only on a single activity, and her monthly fees for that studio make it hard to afford excessive drop-in fees for studios offering different and new exercise activities to keep her inspired and working out. So we sort of hone the problem through those interviews. And then, as such, we were able to understand who this person was, who this human being was that was willing to pay to have her solution or pay to have a solution to the problem. Was a woman. Most of the men we talked to, they were much more interested in continuous or sort of continuity in their exercise routine. They liked sort of the same. They had a very regimented approach to working different muscles on different days, but very clear it was more routine. Whereas women were more about sort of exploring and trying new things. She definitely was more of an adventurer. She was a diehard exerciser. She was at least 3 to 4 times a week that she was working out, and it was part of her routine. But she was consistently inconsistent. One day a week, she'd do the same thing, but everything else was just sort of all over the road. Exercise was not about a goal. It was about balance, seeking balance in her life. She wasn't productive at work if she wasn't working out. She wasn't productive in her relationships if she wasn't working out. It wasn't about some goal-oriented thing like I need to lose weight, or I'm getting married, or I'm doing a Tough Mudder, and I have to achieve this sort of strength goal or the like. It was really about balance seeking. If I didn't sweat, did it really happen? That was sort of something that we heard from these folks, and they like to play with others, so they're exercising with their friends and or family. So this is who was willing to pay, right? We were starting to develop a real human being and understanding this real human being behind the problem that we were solving, and getting a really good sense for what we needed to do in the operation as well as the software to serve her really well. And so we developed this V1 persona, and that is Melanie. And so what you see here are the attitudes we learned about, right? I'll prioritize spending on fitness activities over anything else. I won't be cooped up in the gym all day. I mix it up because it keeps life interesting. You also see behaviors. These are all relevant to the problem you're solving, right? You don't want random behaviors. You want to think really about the behaviors that impact how we think about solving the problem for him or her. Works out 4+ times a week. We talked about consistently and consistent. She has 1 to 2 activities she does every week, but then she mixes it up. Right. So what we're trying to do is build sort of the context for who this person is, how they behave in their everyday life. We even put together kind of an everyday life, a day in the life of Melanie, for instance. And so what you're trying to do again is tell a story. You're trying to tell a story of who this person is. And I will say, I really stay away from demographics. They are not unhelpful. They're helpful when you're trying to target. If you're trying to do some targeting on social media or media, knowing pertinent demographics, because they're still a little antiquated on how they do targeting. They'll look for your career path or income or age. These all sort of help that kind of thing, but it's not going to help you on how you message them, how you build the experience, how you package it up, which features you offer first in your service or your software. So I sort of stay away from demographics for as long as I can. And where I do spend a lot of time is in this picture, right? A lot of times you see companies that will go find a stock image of some happy person at their desk in a clean desk and folded arms and smiling into the camera. What you're trying to do is really show me who this person is. And as you can see, Melanie's up for anything. Let's do it. She's always up for inspiring workouts. She's an adventure seeker. You got her backpack. She's on top of a mountain. So you're really trying to spend time on this. The reason why is you're going to share this persona with your marketing team, with your outsourced developers, with your product manager that you might be outsourcing, with your packaging company. You want people to be rowing in the same direction on who they're targeting. And so the picture says 1,000 words. We all know this. And that's the story you want to tell is through that picture. So it takes some time to find it. But this one page persona is now a really great starting off point for being able to make decisions around how you develop the experience to delight. Make sense? All right. The way we develop this, there's some serial order of events that might help you. And we like to start with just a list of adjectives. Thinking about the pictures that I showed you earlier, some adjectives, some pictures that really represents that human is a really great starting point. And then you sort of fill them out with kind of pertinent attitudes and what they want to achieve, their behaviors. So if you go in this order, it sort of helps you build onto that persona until you've really got a great view of that human, and then you find a photo. So if you want to take a picture of this, this is really helpful in how you build up to that persona. I'm going to have you spend, we don't have a lot of time, unfortunately, but I'd love for you to spend 3 minutes, and I want you to just list out some adjectives. Maybe find a picture, Google image. Maybe think about some attitudes in the customer's voice. So that's one thing I want you to do is step into the customer's shoes and say it from their voice. How would they say it? Use their vernacular. It forces you to get out of your own head and it forces you to get out of your own solution and get you thinking from the customer's perspective and how they view life. I don't think we're going to have enough time to do number 3. So let's do number 1 and number 2. In 3 minutes, I just want you to build some muscle and stepping into their shoes and really thinking about who this human is, okay? So 3 minutes, just jot them down on a piece of paper as if you were going to start writing or putting a stake in the ground at your persona. So 3 minutes. Choose just one right now. I know that some of you have multiple. I just want you to get into the muscle memory of stepping into the customer shoes. Pick one of your segments and think about the adjectives and bringing them to life. You'll be able to do this multiple times. Got about another minute. All right. Talk to me about that exercise of just sort of stepping into their shoes and thinking about maybe their attitudes and how you would describe who they were. Is it hard?
It was hard, but it was really helpful. Like, I feel like I can see how I can improve my problem statement now by getting in their shoes.
Good. Awesome. Love it. What else?
It's kind of a question, but maybe it's just because it's a business tool that I'm working on, but all I could really come up with were kind of like job attributes of the person. I don't know if you're supposed to go deeper into like the personality side of things or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that you asked that question. So I'm trying to go back to what you're yeah, no, now I know remember what product you're offering. Yes, absolutely great question. So we don't really want to think about job tasks
Mm-hmm.
because you're building your product to serve a job task. What you're trying to do is figure out how you build that job task or that experience that serves them. So think about how they conduct their tasks. So here's an example. We have two AR clerks, and we want to build an accounting application that serves accounts receivable clerks, right? One accounts receivable person wakes up at 5 a.m., wants to be the first person in their office, and wants to put together a report for their controller because they want to demonstrate that they have a grasp over the aging receivables and wants to be the first to report. You have another accounts receivable clerk that works 9 to 5. They have 3 kids. Their goal in life is to be there for their kids. They want to be home by 5 o'clock so that they can take their kids to soccer and have dinner with the family by 6:30 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Those two people have the exact same tasks. So I don't care what tasks they're trying to accomplish. What I care about is how they approach them. I might serve the second person with ways to be much more efficient at the same task and enable them to pick up where they left off, wherever they leave off, because sometimes they have to leave off in the middle of a task. Whereas the first one, I want to create features that might create a relationship between the controller and the AR clerk so that they're communicating certain aspects of what's going on in the receivables. Two very different ways of solving the same task, but because you know who that person is or who your archetype is, you're going to lean in on certain ways of developing the experience to serve that task to delight those people. Make sense?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. I definitely have some research to do to be able to talk that in depth, but what you said makes sense.
Yeah. So think about how they complete the task, not that they complete the task. That's the main point. What else? Anyone else have a thought? And Nicole, I see you overwhelmed. That's okay.
That's what I was descriptive of. Someone already said to me, "Take a deep breath." No, that was the descriptor I put in the chat before you said anything about what my people would be feeling. Is they're feeling overwhelmed and they're feeling also unskilled on how do we deal with all this trauma and stuff. I actually created a trauma informed coloring book.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So overwhelmed is really great descriptor, right? You can sort of see how overwhelmed you and thinking about an experience that helps somebody that's overwhelmed that's super helpful to know, right? Anything else about developing a persona
I
or
think it's very, you mentioned something earlier on about like prescribing essentially what we think the problem is as like single founder or solo founder, and we think that you had that image of like all of the heads and saying that all of the heads will, how do you make sure that you remove your bias here? Like I have like obviously a dream situation is I go up to a parking lot owner and I say like, hey guys, like, do you want to make more money? And they say, yeah. And then we shake hands and we continue maturing the business. But in reality, I don't think customers are that easy or simple.
Right.
Even if the problem is really, really crystal clear, there's almost always catches. And so how do you make sure that
Yeah,
like
you're gonna,
Melanie was perfect for your business, right?
yeah, but we didn't know Melanie, right? We thought they were
Mm,
any one of these. And
mm,
so we put together a stake in the ground at the different types of profiles that we could potentially be serving. We didn't know. And so
mm,
you're going to need to put some stakes in the ground at the characteristics that matter, right? Needing to um, make more money is one, of course. But another one might be they have time to actually want to engage in doing this, right? Some people, they can't be bothered. Well, what's the
mm.
difference between those two people? So understanding who these people are, it might take you defining 3 or 4 different segments, going out and interviewing them and getting really crystal clear on who are the ones that were like, yeah, I would totally do this. Or, well, I think it's great, but I don't have time to manage this, right? You'll learn kind of the different aspects of that human being, and there might be 2 or 3, and you're going to then have to define which one is the biggest one or the easiest one to get to communicate with first, or whatever that is. But you're going to have to put some stakes in the ground.
Understood.
All right.
Quick question. Can this template be useful for a B2B case too?
Oh, yes. I mean, it's even more critical to do this for B2B because with B2B, you often have multiple, you have a buyer that you have to solve for. You have an actual user that you're going to have to solve for. And sometimes, so I've spent most of my career in SaaS or B2B software. And you have to understand the different roles within the company that you're serving because you're going to have to understand both needs. You'll have to understand the buyer's needs, but then you're going to have to understand the user's needs probably better than the buyer so that you can sell the buyer. So that gets into some complexity, but you're going to be defining a persona for your buyer. You're going to be defining a persona for your different users. All right. What I did was showed you a super simple example because we only have so much time, but this is even more critical for B2B. All right. So for your pitch deck, you're going to be very clear on who you're targeting. You're going to want to bring them to life. Telling the story, I think, Nicole, you were the one that said this. Telling the story is critical. And the best entrepreneurs or founders that I've seen in a pitch are when they can bring a human to life and show us the problem in real life. Show us the problem that a person is experiencing, a real person is experiencing, right? Even in B2B, helping people understand who you're targeting, even if it's just an image of the buyer, is really important in building the trust that you as the founder understand the customer and that you are listening to the customer. Too often I see founders that believe they are right, believe they know what they're doing, and they are the customer and don't show any empathy for who the customer is or demonstrate that they really even know the customer really well. They just think that there's a market opportunity, it's a huge market opportunity, and then they just move forward. I don't invest in those founders only because I've seen it way too many times. They can't read the writing on the wall, what the customers are telling them, and the business fails because of it. So the more you are empathetic and anchored in the customer and the problem, the more I know you'll be able to pivot when you need to because the customer and the market is driving your decisions, not you as the your own self as a customer. And again, many of you are going to probably expand into the broader market segments. That's great, but show what you're solving, who you're solving for first, and then demonstrate that roadmap to the broader market and how big it can get. You have another session here in your program that talks about how to quantify the available market. You're going to connect your persona to your available market analysis by showing here's who we're targeting first, here's who they are, and here's what we're going to migrate to over the next 2 years, 3 years, whatever that might be with this investment and yada, yada, yada. So you're going to show that roadmap, but you need to clearly understand who you're solving for. Any questions on that before we continue to move forward to our last customer foundation? All right. Now that you've got the problem and you know who you're solving that problem for, now we want to understand the customer's needs that relate to that problem. So it's this combination of the who and the problem, and understanding the context around that problem to help you know how to solve it well. And that's what we call customer needs. I'm sure all of you have seen this. Henry Ford, if I'd asked my customers what they wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And so what we need to do is really just observe what they need and not always react to what they ask for. That's the point here, right? And needs, I want us to forget needs as a feature or some part of a characteristic of the experience or piece of value. These are really aspects of the problem for a particular persona that you need to address within your overall solution. Examples. First is environmental context. Example of this, QuickBooks is a financial management package for small businesses. When we were first developing QuickBooks, most of the accounting solutions out there were modular, right? You've got the AR module, you've got the AP module. And so you have different permissions to get into those. You have different roles that work there. You got different tasks. And what we learned in very small businesses, because we were targeting the under 15 employee businesses, is that one person did everything. And they weren't accounting educated. They didn't really even know what a general ledger is. Often it was the business owner that was doing much of the bookkeeping. We called it bookkeeping, not really accounting. And so that context alone had us rethinking what a small business accounting product would do. We didn't modularize it. We didn't even use the word general ledger, because that wasn't how these folks thought about managing their business finances. So we made a check look like a check. We made invoices, and how many invoices are outstanding versus what are your accounts receivables. That these folks did not care of the terminology related to what the traditional accounting products were offering at the time, because their context was just so different. No accounting education. One person did everything, paid bills, submitted invoices, and you name it. So that context, that need, right? We call that a need, which is just sort of some environmental context, dictated how we designed the solution to delight our customers. Another example would be an inefficiency in a particular task, right? What drives the most pain in filing your taxes, for example? Or there might be a baseline expectation in the market that something doesn't cost over X dollars, and you have to work within that anchor in your solution. So an example, I was doing some research. We were trying to build a content product related to a particular function in a tech organization. And it was more career-oriented content for that particular function. And what we learned was they all had an anchor of, well, Netflix is content. I pay 15 bucks, or at that time it was 10 bucks a month. I'm not going to pay more than 10 bucks a month for another content product. And so we then had to step back and say, okay, we either needed to provide enough value to justify going over 10 bucks, or we needed to define the solution within a $10 value proposition. So it's those kinds of things we need to learn, and we call those needs. It's sort of a big bucket that we need to understand for each persona and each problem so that we can solve the problem well. And they aren't features, they're not solutions, and they're not benefits. So I'm just going to take you through an example. Let's pretend we're a wagon manufacturer. I'm going to go through this quickly. I know we only have 15 minutes. Let's pretend we're a wagon manufacturer. We want to enter a new market. And we knew our problem was the following. City dweller weekend warriors want to feel freedom on the weekends through mini adventures, but can't do this without a ton of pain and delay in mobilizing all their adventure gear, which happens when they're packing up and transferring their equipment from their apartment to their car and back because the distance is long and they have to take multiple heavy trips back and forth before all their gear is packed in their car. So persona traits, right? City dweller, weekend, outdoor warrior. That was who we were solving for. Now, we can do a number of things being a wagon manufacturer, right? We can think about wheel size. We can think about wagon size. We can think about the material on the wagon, the color, turning radius, baseline sort of structure and the materials used on the wagon. There were numerous features we can think about as a wagon manufacturer. So where do we begin? Well, it starts with observation, right? Starts with learning from our customers. And here's what we observed. Most of them were living in apartments that were with large garages where you had to walk quite a ways to get to your car. You also had to move in and out of the parking lot and sort of weave your way in. So I was a customer at the time. I had to back my car in because I was next to a pylon, and if I pulled my car head first, I couldn't open my driver's side door, so I always had to park. I had to back in. That made it really hard for me to actually load anything. So I had to figure out how to move my car somewhere to actually be able to load, or had to pull my car out a little bit so that I can open the back of my car. But it was really hard to get in between the cars and actually load my car. And elevators. Packed elevators made it super hard to bring all the camping gear or the weekend warrior gear, right? If I'm going to a kid's games or I do farmers markets on the weekends, it really made it tough to grab all my stuff and actually maneuver. The stuff that customers had to pack were all different sizes, shapes, weight. Some were wet, some were really dirty, just a very varying goods that had to be maneuvered between the cars and packed in and out of their apartment. The terrain that they had to get to varied, right? There's dirt, sand, sometimes wet in the Pacific Northwest. You're going through some mud or maybe some snow if you're getting to a campsite or going to a park. And so those are some of the needs. We also knew that storage was a huge problem. This is an example of a storage unit one level down from an apartment that somebody lived in because they had no room in their closets to pack their camping gear or their adventure gear. So it was in a completely different floor, and it was packed to the gills. So they had to figure out, they had to make sure they understood that need as well. Now, so we haven't done anything but we haven't talked about a feature. We haven't talked about the solution at all. All we've looked at is observed their context and their environment. It helps us build an understanding of where we need to focus our innovation skills, our creativity, where we need to focus our discussions and our investments in creating a solution that's going to delight our persona and solve that problem. Is that making sense?
Yes.
So of all the things that we observed, right, we want to prioritize the ones that were most impactful. And we can prioritize them based on a new number of things, right? You can decide how to prioritize, but what we did was we thought about, these are the things the criteria that we use to think about prioritizing the needs that we observe. Level of impact. How much does this need actually impact their ability to solve their problem, right? Or for us to be able to solve their problem? How often does it happen? Is that storage issue actually prevalent across these weekend warriors or not? And the pervasiveness That's sort of how pervasive is the problem. The frequency is how often are they actually doing the weekend warrior thing, right? Is it every weekend? Are they carrying the same thing every single time they go? Or is it really rare that they carry a ice chest, for example, right? So you're trying to get an understanding of the frequency, the pervasiveness, and then how strategic. If you were to solve it, are you going to have a better competitive positioning, right? So these are just some of the ideas of when you get some observed needs, you want to prioritize those based on some criteria that matter that you can then make some decisions. And so here's how we prioritized, right? Distance, no duh. This is a wagon manufacturer. We're taking something from point A to point B, right? So it has to work in the distances that we're thinking about. So that's number one. The second was tight maneuvering because everyone, the pervasiveness and the frequency of trying to deal with the garages and weaving in and out of cars and elevators was really high. So we had to get a really good turning radius. Three, storage constraints. Most everyone, even if they lived in a condo, not necessarily a high-rise apartment, had storage constraints. So we had to figure out how to store this wagon, or else we were never going to be able to serve their need. We figured 30 pounds of gear is probably where we're going to land, because if we went too much higher than that, then the cost of goods would become so expensive that we wouldn't be able to price it at a point that was competitive. Uneven ground, we sort of said, you know what, trying to solve for uneven ground or sand and dirt and gravel, we were going to try to go middle of the road. We were going to try to really solve for these expensive tires that we saw some wagons manufacturing because it just made the price too high. So this is how we prioritize what we observed. So then we could make some decisions on the different potential features that we had at our fingertips. Now, could you design a hovercraft and get super creative and the like? Absolutely. But what I'm trying to do is help you understand of if you've got a set of assets that you want to leverage, you want to prioritize how to do that, then being able to look at those needs and prioritize them and then focus your creative energy around those that are most important is really where it's at, right? That's what I'm trying to get us to do. So, proposed feature set, right? Tight turning radius, that was our number one. We needed to make this collapsible so that we can fit it into storage units, right? Size to fit full grocery bags without tipping. We structured it to about 30 pounds. We made the trade-off on the bigger tires just because of cost. So you can sort of see how we get from knowing the problem, knowing who we're solving that problem for, going out and observing them in their own environment, seeing how they're solving the problem today, and the context around that allows us to prioritize their needs so that we can make decisions with confidence. And now we've got a good solid product that's a good stake in the ground at solving the customer need. Does that make sense?
It does for me, Heather. I just have a follow-up question here, which is, do you verify or validate the proposed feature set with the customer before starting to work and iterate on this? Or from a
Absolutely.
timing perspective, do you take this internally and get going?
Yep. And we're going to talk about that next time we're together. We're going to go through how to concept test and concept test quickly, right? You'll be able, you would put together a concept based on this feature set, and you're going to put it right in front of your target profile. You're going to ask them the right questions, right? And then you'll validate whether or not you're on the right track or not.
Awesome. I look forward to it. Thanks.
Yeah. Other questions? This is a lot, I know. Most people are exhausted after this first session because it is a lot. But the thing that I want to emphasize, I guess is the word, is spend time with customers. Put some stakes in the ground on who you think you're solving for, what you think you're solving for, and get clarity on the needs and really sitting in their shoes. That's the goal here. And how and put these, document what you're learning to help you make decisions, right? And so there's a few things on how we uncover needs. Being curious is the first thing, right? I think I've mentioned this a couple times. When founders aren't curious and they think they have the answer all the time, that's when you lose. The more curious you are, why is that behavior happening? Oh, I wonder why this is such a pain. Oh, I wonder if we did this, what their response would be. It's being curious, it's testing our notions, right? Observational research. We'll talk more about this, but I grew up in a company where we had this Follow Me Home program, which sounds super creepy. But Follow Me Homes, we actually followed people home. We went to their homes. We watched them do taxes. We went to their place of business. We watched them in how far the printer was away from their desk. We watched how they asked questions. We watched where people got their tax inputs. They'd go to their mailbox. They'd go to their kitchen counter, then they'd go back to their computer. We'd see and observe the pain and the process. And it made us significantly more successful in defining solutions that delighted customers. Listening, right? This is hearing answers, seeing reactions, and asking the 5 whys. We'll talk more about 5 whys. How many of you have heard about the 5 whys? This is just a question, a way to ask questions.
I love their French fries.
Huh?
I like their French fries.
The 5 whys. Oh, yeah. Nope, not quite Five Guys. It's 5 whys, but it is a really great method to keep in mind when we're interviewing customers. And again, we'll go through it. But these are the ways that we uncover needs, uncover really the nuggets that are going to help us design an experience that enable competitive advantage. And so again, we'll talk more about these, but be thinking about, you all have some customers that you already think you're going to be targeting. Start thinking about how you're going to access one or two of them, and start thinking about how you might be able to observe the tasks that they're trying to achieve. Again, even in B2B, I have sat in enterprise companies and watched people do their jobs. It's not impossible. It's not easy, but it's not impossible. So be thinking creatively about how to observe as much as you can. So for your pitch deck, observational research isn't necessarily critical for the pitch deck. Now, I will say having artifacts from your observational sessions is super impactful. So if the best founders and pitches I've seen are when they bring a recording or a video or images of somebody experiencing the problem in real time. It just brings everything to the forefront. It brings that empathy. It enlists everyone in the room to have empathy for the problem. And so the more you can do that and tell a story, the more you get people invested in you, invested in the problem, and invested in your idea. So be thinking as much as you can about how you're going to tell the story and bringing in some of what you've observed in living color. But this is really about being able to focus. Everything I've talked to you about today is enabling you to say no to things, which is just as important as saying yes to things. And the more you know about your customer, the more you know what they don't need, and the more you know what is most important. And the more you're going to be able to spend money and your time, your precious time, because we're all working probably a full-time job and doing this. And so being able to spend your time on the most critical things to be successful is a blessing, really. Yeah, so I'm not going to go through the rest of this, but so today was all about customer foundations. Next time, we're going to talk all about how to build these customer foundations through research, and then how to continuously infuse customer insight into your process so you're evolving these artifacts, these foundations over time as you learn more, so you can pivot early, you can make decisions confidently, and continue to focus and justify decisions to investors, board, and your team. So with that, I'll finish with any last questions.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Just at the end there, you said some of the best pitches have a video or image. Was it of a person using the product or experiencing the problem, or what did you say?
It's usually experiencing the problem.
Okay.
Because what you're trying to do is bring the problem into the forefront so that people know it's actually a problem and and people are willing to have it solved. Using your product you're always going to find somebody that likes your product. But
Right.
you really want to make sure that the problem is painful, expensive, even if it's somebody talking about the problem. Oh my gosh, this thing happened to me 10 times last month and it cost me, $300. And as a small business, I can't afford that.
Okay.
Just,
Awesome.
so interviews, observational sessions and the like.
Would a quote be nice too? Okay.
Looks great too. Yep. All right. Any other last questions before I set you off?
I do have one quick question. This is due on Wednesday of this week or the following Monday?
It's the next time we meet, and I'm not sure what my next day is with you. So let me look. It's the scrappy research session you have, customer research and concept testing. And I think, let me just look really quick. I have you the 12th. That's when I have you next. So we're going to go through your problem statements on the 12th. Okay.
Thank
All
you.
right.
That just clarifies things because sometimes there's so much going on when we're going through these, and I just kind of want to have a date, because if you said the next time and then the next time's Wednesday and
Yeah,
then we're
right. Right. Yeah, no, it looks like I've got you on the 12th, and that's when we're going to pick up where we left off and go into concept testing and scrappy research. But at the beginning of that session, I'm going to have hopefully all of you be able to go through your problem statements, and we'll just have to go through them fast because there's a lot of folks here. But yeah, you'll have a chance to talk through your problem statement.
Thank you so much, Heather. Really appreciate you.
Yeah, well, have a great night, everyone, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Heather.
Bye.
Thanks so
Heather.
much. Have a good one.
Awesome.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye-bye.